Happy Hump Day, everybody! It's a Wednesday edition of the Sean O'Connell Show. Brought to you by our friends at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main Street, getting you ready for a big weekend in college football. Thursday night NFL games on, Thursday college football games on. The perfect place to stop by, grab a beverage, grab something off their delicious craft food menu, and sit down, enjoy sports at Salt Lake City Sports Bar. Big Willie's, 1717 South Main, proud partner of the Sean O'Connell Show. We got Josh Newman joining us, as I promised you. Trevor Riley is expected to join us here in studio. And, of course, we're very much looking forward to a conversation with Mark Harlan, the athletic director at the University of Utah. I already told you about all those in the teas, right? We're also going back between the pipes. Adrian Denny, our Utah Mammoth insider. Mammoth camp is open. There's actually a huge story going on as you're down a goalie. Connor Ingram not returning to the Utah Mammoth. The team and Connor Ingram have mutually parted ways. We're going to get into the reasons behind that. And, of course, the outlook for the Utah Mammoth in goal without a guy who came in last year as your starter, was supplanted by the good play of Veggie and, unfortunately, by some of his own personal health situations. But, yeah, Utah Mammoth camp. We're less than a month away from the season starting. NHL hockey back, the Utah Mammoth. And, of course, if you still have your Utah Hockey Club sweaters, you should wear those to the Delta Center as well, because it's, by the way, a revamped, refitted, new seating arrangement, the risers, the different technology being incorporated. There's a lot going on. So Adrian Denny, bonus, added, and even better, Devin Dampier. The schedule, a little inside baseball here, usually the starting quarterback for the University of Utah, we have him come down and, do the interview in person in studio. We record it on Wednesday mornings because that's what fits with his school schedule, his lifting schedule, and things like that. It's a big week, and they're making sure everyone gets extra attention, extra treatment in preparation for the early kickoff and things like that. So Devin Dampier will join us live today in just a couple of minutes. So that's the breaking news, that Devin Dampier is joining us in about 90 seconds here on the Sean O'Connell Show instead of his normal Thursday time slot. Of course, we will still play it in the normal Thursday time slot because our sponsors want us to have this appointment listening. It's perfect, man. We get extra Devin for the week.
Yeah, if you miss it in a couple of minutes here, you only catch part of it. You can listen to it again tomorrow at the regular time. Thursdays at noon every week is the regular time. Also, we're going to have the podcast. It's going to be in podcast form today. We're going to have it's not going to be a YouTube. It's going to be over the phone. So we'll have the YouTube video. It will not feature Devin Dampier in studio with OC, but it will be on YouTube as well. So still plenty of ways to listen to it. If you're like, oh hey, I'm ready for Thursdays at noon. I cleared my schedule for that. I'm not ready for Wednesdays at 11. You'll get to hear it at that time tomorrow, and obviously podcast and YouTube ways to listen to.
We should find like a really awkward thumbnail, a thumbnail picture for Devin Dampier that's like very unflattering to put behind the YouTube audio, so that when you tune in on YouTube, it's just like a bad picture of Dev. Just so that he'll be like, I'm not letting that happen again. I'm not doing phoners again. We're going to be in studio from here on out.
We don't want this to be a habit, Devin.
Let's make it like the most awkward Devin Dampier photo we could find. Very much looking forward to our conversation with QB1. Whenever it happens every week, it's always great. A lot going on in the world of sports that hopefully we'll have time to get to today. The Florida Panthers got some news about the timeline on Matthew Tkachuk that is also relevant to USA hockey because, of course, you've got the Milan Cortina Olympics coming next winter or this coming winter. Diego Pavia Pay attention, college football fans. The Vanderbilt quarterback, Diego Pavia, it's not just headlines about Theo Vaughn wanting to date his mom. He's trying to get a 7th year of college eligibility without any red shirts. That's in court. They're fighting for that. You got to pay close attention. Colorado has named a new starter at quarterback. That's actually an old starter at quarterback. Deion Sanders is all over the place with his quarterback situation right now. Tom Brady is upsetting everyone in the NFL by sitting in coaches' booths when he's also an owner, but he's also a broadcaster who, by the way, as a fun reminder, is paid $37.5 million a year for the next 10 years. Well, I guess it was a 10-year contract. So for the next, we're at 8.5 years now that Tom Brady's going to be making that money. That is insane. And, of course, we'll update you on the latest with the Kawhi Leonard situation. All that coming on the Sean O'Connell Show, but time right now for Dishing with Dev. That's as good of an introduction as you can get. Devin, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Man, we're doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. How you feeling? We'll look back on Wyoming. We'll look forward to Texas Tech. But first of all, how you feeling? How's the energy? How's the body after 3 weeks of college football?
Yeah, no, the energy's up there for sure. The guys we've been grinding all year for, to have these ranked games. These are the games, we play for. So really excited for the opportunity and just, it's going to be fun.
Before we get to Texas Tech, let's talk about the Wyoming game. Let's talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever. Let's start with the good. Your improvisational ability is something that all of us expected to be appreciating when we watched your New Mexico tape. And for the first couple of weeks of the season, you've obviously shown your acumen for extending plays, escaping a little bit of trouble, tucking the ball and running when you need to. You had a play in Wyoming against Wyoming that was hilariously awesome. The ball slips out of your hand. You know what I'm talking about. The ball slips out of your hand. You recover your own fumble. You pick it up. Now, it's a broken play at that point. Anything can happen. And instead of falling on the ball for a loss or having to throw it away for just kind of a neutral whatever, you find Larry Simmons in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. Tell me what you were seeing on the play. Tell me what happened with it slipping out of your hand. And, of course, how you came up with the best possible outcome.
Yeah, I was looking for one of my receivers on the left, and I kind of felt the ball coming out of my hand, but I still tried to throw it, and then it really did slip out. So, but I kind of just felt that I was protected when the ball came out. I knew the line was holding up. So, yeah, my instinct was to not dive on the ball, pick it up, and when I turned around, I just kind of locked in with Larry in the back of the end zone, and he shot to the sideline, and it all worked out.
Now, when you run back to the sideline and your coach can talk to you in the headset or whatever, or maybe in film session, how does Jason Beck react to that play? I mean, a good outcome is not always like what you're coached to do, even if like you made up for the mistake. Was he like, all right, next time fall on it? Was he like, all right, that's cool, let's do it like that every time? What was the coaching staff reaction to that play?
Yeah, Coach Beck is the guy that he holds his cool all game. So yeah, he's just like, well, you made a play. That's kind of what I heard when I got to the sideline.
Oh man, that's a fun one. Let's talk about the maybe not quite as good from the Wyoming game. Offensively in the first half, you guys were moving the ball, but then kind of got bogged down a little bit. And it wasn't until the second half that things really loosened up and you guys got into the end zone a bunch of times. And it was strange because it's not like you were having to get enforced in your own territory and having to punt the ball away. It was those drives ended with missed field goals, which is a special teams issue. But in your perception, in that first half, what were the issues with you guys kind of stalling out late in those drives?
Yeah, I thought, again, we're moving the ball perfectly fine. The yardage from first half to second half were dang near the exact same numbers. So moving the ball wise, we're doing a great job. Just capitalizing on those later third downs. The penalties, the amount of penalties we had in the first half, instead of, it being 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, we put ourselves in a lot of, 3rd and 7, just longer third down situations that we're normally an efficient team. So just got to overcome those. But, I love the adversity that came with that. We got to see what our team's about. Just as a whole, our whole defense at halftime, they let us know that they had our back, and just our offense came collective. And, we made sure we emphasized all those third downs when we got to the other side of the 50. So eventually we got it done, and, it's a lot of confidence going into this week.
When penalties hurt you, right? I mean, coaches, that's the thing that drives them most insane, but they're frustrating for players as well. And you're a de facto leader on this team as a quarterback. People are looking to you constantly. When it's penalties, what's the conversation like on the sideline? What can you do to help out with penalties, especially penalties that are not on you?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, you just got to lift those guys up. When you make a penalty like that, it's really easy to get down on yourself, and you can feel the eyes of other people looking at you. The biggest thing I try to do is, just allow those guys to know, you're in the game for a reason. We obviously trust you, so, pick your head up, and, the expectations that we have for you is high. So we don't expect you to do that again, and, normally they get on top of it. So
on that same vein of lifting up teammates, especially after mistakes, Nate Johnson has proven to be a weapon for this offense already. And he had an unfortunate moment in this game where he fumbled as you guys were going in for what would have been a scoring drive. And it looked like, Dev, he was beating himself up. End of the bench, towel over the head, seemed real bothered by that situation. Have you talked to Nate about that? Is he doing all right? People were talking about him deleting his social media. I don't know if people were coming at him or whatever. Is Nate doing all right after a mistake that ultimately wasn't all that costly? I know he's a competitor. I know he's hard on himself. But that reaction, I was like, man, is he okay?
Yeah, obviously being mad at yourself for a mistake, that shows a good sign that, he does care about our team. And, he knew just the situation. He lost us in that situation. And but, yeah, I told him, you're a leader on this team. Don't ever show that to the crowd. Don't ever show that to our players. We're all looking at you. It's very hard to make a mistake and move on right away. But, we're all here behind you. And, he's doing perfectly fine. I talked to him literally the day after also. Just to give him more confidence going into this week. And, he just had a good practice the other day. So, not too worried about Nate's performance at all. He's going to go back out there and prove the world that, he's a baller.
No doubt there, and I hope he realizes that that's how everyone feels about it, but glad you were able to address that. Devin Dampier, Utah quarterback, is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Dishing with Dev, as we do every single week. So coming off a 31-6 Wyoming win, you guys climb further in the rankings. You're 3-0, and now the stage is set. Big noon kickoff, ranked Texas Tech team. You guys are, 16 and 17 in the rankings. A lot of people think these are the two best teams in the Big 12 Conference right now, and you're on home grass. You're on your home turf to take on this Texas Tech team. Give me your overarching – we'll get into the details of it, but kind of like the big picture. How are you approaching this game?
We're approaching this game like any other week. We're a very week-to-week team. We don't try to look too forward any games, and we try not to make any game, bigger than any other. So just going into it, same week of practice, same week of preparation. I think our coaches do a great job of the way we run things, and just the amount of film and things we go over. So that's great on that side. And just for the game, yeah, I mean, Rice Eccles, you hear about it all the time. They cause opponents some problems when they come to our home. So very excited to have that crowd behind us going into this game.
What are you seeing from Texas Tech on film?
Those boys are fast. They're very reactive to just pull down runs and obviously pulling RPOs and just all that. So very talented squad, and I love competition, and we're definitely gonna have to compete for this game. So love that.
So on paper, there's a strength versus strength thing in this matchup. They've got one of the best defensive fronts in the country, at least on paper. Everyone's got to prove themselves, right? But your offensive line, kind of the same thing. We're talking top 5 D-line, top 5 O-line. That matchup is going to matter a lot in this game. How do you maximize the success for your offensive line? How do you address, the pass rush that they've got, the interior pass rush that they've got, how good they are against the run? It is, I think, the premier matchup of interior lines or of front lines that we have seen so far, at least for Utah and maybe in all the Big 12.
Yeah, just like me, my offensive line, they're very competitive. So they have no problems going into competition. They love that. They feed off of that. So I expect those boys to level up their playing level, and just how good they've been playing during the season. I expect them to elevate their game also going into this. And that's huge credit to Texas Tech as well. They have a talented group as well. So I'm happy I'm able to have my legs, just in case if one of my linemen miss a block one play, I can always help them out and use my feet, and it'll be fun.
We saw in the Wyoming, like the closeout, kind of the Hunter Andrews wildcat, I guess you might want to call it, where you end up going out and played wide receiver effectively. You're lining up as a wide receiver, you motion or whatever else. And there's the decoy opportunity in situations like that, but you're an athlete. Are you a good receiver? If it comes down to it, if there's trickeration on Jason Beck's mind, can you get up and pull a pass down?
Man, you know what? If going into these weeks, if I line up out there and no one, and they decide not to guard me, I wouldn't be surprised I end up getting the ball out there. But yeah, I could do it. Don't worry, I'm an athlete on that field.
Yeah, but there's athletes like every corner in the game is an athlete, right? Every safety in this game is an athlete, but not all those guys have ball skills. I'm asking about that specifically. Do you have ball skills? We know you could throw it. Can you catch it?
I can catch a snap. That's about.
That's all we need.
Catch a snap and maybe a little trick, maybe a little Eagles special, maybe a little Philly special.
James was just telling me Scott Mitchell, who played obviously quarterback at the University of Utah and in the NFL for a long time. Scott says that quarterbacks have the best hands on the team. You don't tell the receivers. Devin didn't say that. Scott Mitchell said that. Don't tell the receivers that.
Yeah, I might get mad at me.
Speaking of your wide receivers, RD had 10 catches, almost eclipsed that 100-yard mark. You guys seem to have excellent chemistry. It took a week to get going. We didn't see a ton of it against UCLA. These last 2 weeks, he's been a lot more productive. How do you feel the growth of Ryan Davis and maybe more importantly, the whole room is going through 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think, the best thing about our offense, we just take advantage of whatever the defense gives us. And I think UCLA was more of a running week for us. And just, especially this past week, they played a lot of man. And, me and RD already have a year under our belt when I was starting. And I actually threw to RD quite a bit during my freshman year as well. So basically, we really have 3 years together. So we know each other pretty well. And just, he's over reliable. That's what we call him in the room right now. And just the rest of that room, those guys grind. The rushing yards we put up, you can't put those yards up without those guys blocking the perimeter. And obviously when they get their chance, when the ball's going their way, they tend to come down with the ball. So I'm proud of that group and the way they're playing.
In your mind, this offense has been very productive, and those of us who followed Utah football for, decades now, it's like this breath of fresh air when you're talking about 500 yards of offense and you're talking about 6 and 7 touchdowns and the possibility of scoring 6 and 7 touchdowns. It's not what we're used to every single year with Utah football, but the level of competition has not been the same as what you guys are going to face. So in your mind, what is the biggest key to making sure that the productive offense we've seen through these first 3 weeks sustains itself against Texas Tech and into conference play?
Yeah, games like this, mistakes are a little bit more costly, and, you try to make less of those. So, I wouldn't say every play matters more, but, when you make mistakes against good teams, they tend to capitalize on those. So just trying not to find ways to hurt yourself on that field. And, I think, we play a great offense together. Our boys are ready for this situation. So just go out there and, do what we do best.
So with the big noon kickoff situation, right, it's a bigger television show. It's an earlier kickoff time. Typically, that means that star players on the teams get maybe an extra interview here. Have your media obligations changed this week? We appreciate you giving us time like we do every week, but as Utah football takes center stage nationally, has it increased your media workload this week at all, or will it?
The interviews have definitely kicked up a little bit this week for sure, which is awesome. I always use that. I always use my interview opportunities to just allow them to see the inside of our team and just see how special of a group we are. So I'm all for it. I love talking about my team and how special of a group we are. So
the big noon desk, right? Urban Meyer. Everyone here very familiar with Urban Meyer. He was a coach for a couple years at the University of Utah. Brady Quinn, great quarterback, but that was like before you were born. Matt Leinart, same thing. Mark Ingram, unbelievable running back. But, we're talking about guys that were impacting college football a couple decades ago. How much awareness do you have of those careers, the highlights of those guys I just mentioned? Like, I know you're a football junkie, but I don't expect people to be football historians as well. How aware are you of these guys and what they accomplished and what they've done?
Yeah, you always hear about the NCAA covers, and some of the Mark Ingram was one of those guys in Madden. I used to use back in the day. He was a little cheat code when he was out there. So I'm very familiar with those guys up there. It's really special to hear that they know me and they know me by my name. That's pretty awesome to be in that position. Just keep getting better. That's my mentality.
Do you like the early kickoff time? I know we touched on this a little bit last week, but now it's a reality. Now you got 6 a.m. wake up. I don't know what time the meal is, but you're playing football at 10 a.m. Do you like that?
Yeah, this will be my first time having a game at 10 a.m. But our practices, spring and fall camp, we've had morning practices at 9:30. So, practicing early, playing football early is nothing new to me. We're gonna see how that is game time. I haven't got to do that, so first time.
These last 3 weeks, right, your star has kind of grown. Your celebrity here in town has elevated a little bit. This, though, is the biggest, craziest opportunity for that to really explode. You go out there, you have a game against Texas Tech. You make yourself even more of a national name, more of a household name here locally. What does it feel like? Is that opportunity important to you? I know that the priority for you is representing your team and winning the game, but this is reality, man. Like you can really do some things for yourself and for your teammates with a good performance here. That comes with pressure, but you don't seem like a guy who's too bothered by that. Just tell me how you're feeling with this national spotlight being on your team and because you're the quarterback on you.
Yeah, I try to carry myself very humbly. everyone's on the same level. We're all children of God, so at the end of the day, we're all together as one. But yeah, I mean, I always love giving back to our community. We have one of the best communities, especially just college fan bases. You hear about Utah and how loyal our fans are. So, it'd be awesome to, win them a big game and allow them to celebrate that with us. So, huge opportunity for sure. And, we're going to go out there and do what we do best.
Cannot wait. We will be there. We'll see you up there. Enjoy this whole process. Enjoy the rest of the week of preparation. Stay healthy. Do your thing on Saturday. It's been an absolute joy watching these first 3 weeks, regardless of whatever happens on Saturday. I know we're going to feel the same. So, Dev, really, really appreciate you taking the time, man. Thank you and good luck.
Yeah, always. Thank you.
Devin Dampier, Dishing with Dev, brought to you by Culligan Water of Salt Lake City. Experience the Culligan difference. America First Credit Union, Polylift Concrete Lifting and Piering, ARUP Blood Services, Give Local, Save Local. That's QB number one. You can't even get him to talk about himself. You can't even get the guy to point the finger at himself.
I know. I thought he was gonna, when he said I like doing media, I thought he was gonna slip and say I like talking about myself a little bit. No, he even then he's like, yeah, I like to do media. It gives me a chance to talk about what a great team we have. I mean, just exactly what you want your quarterback to say if you're the offensive coordinator, Jason Beck, head coach Kyle Whittingham, and any one of his teammates for sure.
I'm going to state something incredibly obvious here, but if you're able to beat this Texas Tech team, it's going to be largely because of that man. Texas Tech is a dangerous offensive team. They have done their best with spending in the transfer portal to make themselves into a dangerous defensive team as well. Their numbers so far have reflected improvement in those areas. But there's probably going to be scenarios on Saturday where you need points. You need drives to be extended. You need somebody offensively that you can trust to make a play. And, of course, that's where the absence of enthusiasm and the absence of optimism came from last year, because you went through this offensive doldrum where after the injuries to Brant Keithy and to Cam Rising and to many other players on the team, you're just like, I don't know that we can make this play here. At Rice-Eccles Stadium at 10:41 a.m. or whatever, there's going to be a scenario that you're like, all right, we need an offensive play here. I think 4 can make it. That is just a different mindset, and it's lovely to have. Big thanks to Devin Dampier for joining us.
By the way, even if he drops the ball mid-play, you're like, 4 can make this play.
Hey,
we found that out against Wyoming.
Here's the thing, though. With Romello Height and David Bailey and company crashing down,
a little less time to pick that ball back up.
You might have half a second or a full second less. Okay, so you might just have to pick it up and throw it out of bounds.
Do we think he gets tricky and dribbles between his legs and then throws one time?
Although I don't want to give too much credit when Romello Height and David Bailey, this is the thing. They're going to be NFL players, okay? The guys blocking them are also going to be NFL players. So I said it yesterday, I said it Monday, I'll say it again probably today, tomorrow, Friday. The canceling out of elite talents in this game is a very real possibility. The rank and file of this team at the disposal of those quarterbacks is probably going to be one of the major deciding factors here. Like, all right, we've taken away your best receiver, Texas Tech. We have blocked your best pass rushers, Texas Tech. Now, do you have the other guys to make the play? And the same thing is true for Utah. John Henry Daly is only getting half a sack in this game. Who is going to step up and be the other guy or the other guys to make the stops, to harass Baron Morton, to make his life miserable, to maybe knock him out of the game because he can't move? Anyway, it's so fun getting ready for a game like this. Josh Newman next. Is that what we're doing?
That's right, Josh Newman.
We'll see if we can get him to dip into his Utah mailbag for us live on air. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92 FM. Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792 on FM. If you're not following Josh Newman on Twitter, especially this week when the Venn diagram of his interests really becomes just a circle because it's Utah football It's pizza questions. It's what kind of pizza should you be suggesting for someone who's in town because of Utah football? I mean, it is. This is the week we need Josh Newman, and he joins us now on the Sean O'Connell Show. Josh, hey, how are you?
Oh, see, I appreciate you having me.
Where are you sending Portnoy for pizza for big noon kickoff?
Yeah, it's been a pretty spirited debate this week with Utah fans. I think we've all sort of come to the agreement that the pie is like quintessential Salt Lake City, quintessential campus life, University of Utah. So if he's going to go to one place, you go to the pie, but you do that knowing that the pie is not exactly his speed, and that the score is probably not going to be very good.
Yeah, that's my only problem with it is I know he's gonna tell the world that the pie is not great, and it is great, and so that's gonna bother me. And he's not gonna dip it in ranch, which you got to do with the pie ranch. It would probably blasphemy for you. I don't know, but anyway, it's we'll talk more important things. But
yeah,
I know that's your wheelhouse right there, pizza.
I do like my pizza.
Is this Utah football team good?
We're going to find out. We're going to get at least a much clearer picture to help answer that question on Saturday. I think you've watched Utah play through the game. They came out of the gates and they beat up UCLA, and it's become clear that UCLA might be the worst Power 4 team in the country. And then you beat up Cal Poly, and you sort of played with your food a bit too much last week against Wyoming in the first half, but then you sort of imposed your will in the second half, right? You started finishing drives, and that game eventually looked like what it was supposed to look like. But we just
I think we got to reestablish our connection with Josh Newman. The phone appears to have dropped out. We'll figure it out. That we didn't get a whole answer there. He's correct. We will find out more about how good this Utah football team is with Texas Tech. I like the terminology, played with the food a little bit too much against Wyoming. It's harder to pin down why that happens than it is to identify the fact that it is happening, of course, especially when the offensive production. We just talked with Devin Dampier, and he was accurate in his assessment and said, well, our yardage production, we were still moving the ball, but we got bogged down. That can trigger some Utah fans. All right, we got Josh Newman back. I want to allow you to kind of like finish your answer. Like it's Utah versus Texas Tech will be the first real litmus test, not only for Utah but for the Red Raiders as well. And based on what we've seen and what's on paper, do you feel like this is going to be a positive outcome for the Utes?
Yeah, I do. I think on paper, I think Utah's got a little bit too much. The offensive line and the run game. We haven't seen not everything that Utah can offer on offense. And, look, you didn't have to. Again, you beat up 3 lesser opponents. 2 of those games were completely one-sided, which means you were not seeing, 4 quarters of the first team offense. So going to be interesting. Utah has sort of established itself here as a Big 12 contender. And Texas Tech, as you know, I live in Texas, and, there's been a lot of buzz for, a long time now about Texas Tech, and that has everything to do with the amount of money that they've spent on this roster. And for Texas Tech, this is also their first opportunity to really, play somebody real and show what they're capable of.
We have had that conversation all off season long about the amount of money. One thing we have not yet seen in college football is somebody like buying their way into a championship. I know that Ohio State spent a lot of money and had success because of that, but they were Ohio State before they started spending that money, right? It's not like they leapt up into the conversation because suddenly it became legal to spend that money. They'd been there for a long time already. Texas Tech is in a different sort of category in my mind because if they end up having a great year. Even if Utah beats them, they could still end up having a great year. That conversation is going to be like, well, yeah, you bought those wins, you bought that whatever. And that's just the world of college football right now. But have we seen anyone really successfully execute the purchase of, an extra 4, 5, 6 wins in a year when they didn't already have something going?
Well, SMU last year, SMU wasn't exactly a patsy,
Yeah,
but
fair.
they did buy their way into the ACC, and I don't think we thought going into last season that they were the best team in the ACC. Certainly not. But look, they bought their way, very literally bought their way into the ACC, and they paid for players. They spent good money on players, and they didn't win the ACC, but they made the college football playoff. So if you deep-pocketed oil money boosters up there in Dallas with SMU, and it's sort of the same deal at Texas Tech. Deep-pocketed boosters, one guy in particular, kind of pulling those strings. And look, you make a good point about Ohio State buying players, buying a roster, but that's Ohio State. Okay, Ohio State would have figured it out, and it's just very intriguing in this new day and age that you can buy a roster, you can't buy wins, so to speak. Like, you still have to go out and play the games and win the games, but they certainly have bought a roster that they believe can compete for the Big 12 and even more. But, Texas Tech doesn't exactly have a stout football history, right? It's, 8 wins, and they haven't won a conference championship in decades. But here we are, this is legal now, above board, and Texas Tech thinks that they've spent the money that they needed to be highly competitive.
Another reason I love this matchup is because, as both teams are getting their first real test, you get to position specificity, and those tests are going to be fun to watch in the micro. You've got 2 of the best offensive tackles in the country against 2 of the best pass rushers, or guys who were the top pass rushing free agents, so to speak, in this new world of college football. And, that's a premier matchup. I mean, if this was an SEC game, that would be the thing that was highlighted. The fact that you have this matchup in week 1 of Big 12 play, it might be one of those games where they fight the tendency to watch the ball the whole time, because you got to see if Fano can stop Romello Height. You got to see if Caleb Lomu can stop David Bailey. How do you think that plays out over the course of 4 quarters?
It's going to be intriguing, certainly from, a draft perspective, a scout perspective. I mean, I assume this is a game where NFL scouts and decision makers are going to be in the Rice Eccles press box. I mean, there's been games over the years where you're getting matchups, and there's, a dozen, 18, 20 NFL scouts for a giant matchup at Utah. And this is sort of, especially for Caleb Lomo, he's really sort of moved up draft boards, right? Like, Spencer Fano was more of a known commodity, and, he's viewed pretty widely as, one of the top 1 or 2 offensive tackle prospects for this next cycle. But for Caleb Lomo, this is a bit of a proving ground. He's moved up draft boards. He's getting first round love now, but this is really an opportunity for him to, be on a big stage and go against top flight competition. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
If this becomes a shootout, can Utah win it?
Don't know, because we haven't seen that version of Utah. I mean, they just don't. In the first 3 games, nobody has shown himself to be a downfield threat or, a guy that can, take the top off a defense. I don't know that Utah's offense is, high powered enough, high octane enough to win a game where you need to score, 35, 40, 45 points. We think it is because of the pedigree with Jason Beck and Devin Dampier, but the way Utah has played up to this point, not their fault, but the way they have played is, run it, smash mouth, ground it out, run, and that offensive line is going to beat you up for 4 quarters. If it turns into a shootout, maybe. I just don't know. I don't think anybody knows, just because we haven't, we haven't watched Utah need to do those things yet, but maybe.
All right. On those lines, in that vein, if you're trying to stop a Texas Tech offense that right now is scoring 58 points a game, nobody at Rice Eccles wants to see 58-60. What do you need to hold the Red Raiders to where Josh Newman feels like, all right, we can match that. You can beat them at least by a point?
I think if the game stays in the 30s, again, I just don't know that Utah is fully equipped to win a game if you're talking about, 6 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns, like you said, getting into the 50s potentially. I think if Morgan Scalley's defense can hold Texas Tech in the 30s, I think Utah has the firepower to win a game. We're sitting here talking 31-28, 34-31. I don't think that's too unreasonable.
How should we feel about Lander Barton having a slow start this year, and Smith Snowden not yet making any huge plays defensively, and Teo Johnson, who this coaching staff's been talking about for 2 years, maybe not jumping off the page in the first 3 games?
I don't think there's any need for on the season. Guys have slow starts. Okay, guys have slow starts, but it's 3 games in, and 2 of those games were completely non-competitive. Personally, look, the 12-game regular season, from a media standpoint, from somebody on the outside looking in, I try not to make any definitive statements or notions or what a team is until you're at least 6 games into a 12-game regular season. So yeah, slow starts, no doubt, cause for concern. Not yet. It's just a slow start. But if this, look, we're into mid-September. If this sort of drags into West Virginia and it drags into Arizona State, yeah, then we can start asking those questions like what's wrong. But I just think the sample size is too small, and it's a little too early to be asking what's wrong.
Does the winner of this game claim the spot as the best, as the team to beat in the Big 12? Iowa State, I think, deserves that spot right now. Does the winner of Texas Tech, Utah, leapfrog over the Cyclones?
The winner of Texas Tech, Utah is absolutely going to be seen as, not a prohibitive Big 12 favorite, but certainly in that first tier. But the winner of this game is at the top of that first tier, just because if Iowa State and Utah and Texas Tech in order, these 2 teams are playing each other, the winner is going to be hailed as a favorite, if not the favorite. But as we sort of play out last year with Arizona State coming out of nowhere to win the Big 12, I think we can all agree that this is a wonky, weird conference, and there are going to be plenty of weird and wonky Saturdays as we move into October and into November. But for now,
Bad connection again. You know what? That's all right, because Josh Newman, our time is up. So, great stuff, as always, from Josh. You can find his consulting work, his freelancing work at KSL.com. Friend of the program, one of the best we've had covering the Utes, and glad to have him doing it again this year. Hot lunch coming on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Live Night Events presents 2025 Granary Live Concert Series powered by Nightingale College and Murdoch Hyundai. That's Utah's #1 Hyundai dealer. Outdoor concerts in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City's Granary District. Find more details at ESPN700sports.com. Time for the hot lunch. You should be checking out your hot lunch at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main. They got great bar food. Also, if you want to go with a healthier option, the spinach salad, phenomenal. I didn't expect that. It was a revelation. It was great. Even the veggie burger is good.
The pasta with the steak,
The penne steak pasta, yeah.
and the garlic bread on the side, also very good. We both enjoyed that last week. So incredible lunch option is Big Willie's.
Okay, Tom Brady gets a pass in the weirdest of ways. And I'm not here to tell you how to feel about sports celebrities. I'm not telling you if you have to feel anything at all for sports celebrities. But I am blown away by the fact that Tom Brady has been, sort of, I won't say gifted because he had to work very hard to earn his status, but he has been afforded the opportunity to kind of like navigate the sports world in a way that nobody else gets to. And what I'm talking about is the latest situation with Tom Brady, doing whatever he wants. I guess you got to respect that. Showing up, in a booth, in a coach's booth for the Raiders.
Headset on, looking like he's part of the coach. Everyone knew he wasn't, but he certainly looked like he was being part of the strategy that the Raiders were using.
Which, by the way, if you're an owner who has intimate football knowledge, that you would want to do that, right? Great. I don't know how well that works when you're also supposed to be a neutral broadcaster, and that's why now again the league has had to re-examine whether or not Tom Brady can go to production meetings, be allowed access to facilities, and things like that. It's just strange. Tom Brady is problematic, but he's not problematic for people. And so I put a poll question out today that has yielded results I expected, but still am mildly surprised by. I said, which GOAT candidate, I made sure to say candidate because I know that people can never find consensus.
Get people heated.
Has the most problematic public image? Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Barry Bonds. Okay? Barry Bonds is running away with it.
Yeah, that was my vote. Even though there's arguments and more flimsy arguments than others for all of them as to why you'd consider them problematic in their own way, Barry Bonds, absolutely the most problematic of the group.
LeBron James is in second here.
Which I think he has the most flimsy argument for being
LeBron
problematic.
is not problematic, guys.
People think he is because of he's been outspoken over the years politically.
And I'll be very careful with this given the tone of our country's political climate right now.
Yeah.
But if you don't like LeBron James's politics, it doesn't make him a problematic person.
Right.
It just means he's someone that disagrees with you.
But for some reason, we see a lot of people today see it as one and the same.
Michael Jordan.
Absolutely a problem.
Michael Jordan. I've never met Mike, okay? I don't cast judgments or aspersions on people that I don't. But I'm talking about their public image, their public persona. Michael Jordan as a public persona is far more complicated than LeBron James.
Absolutely.
Michael Jordan
more than Tom Brady, too.
A million scumbag scenarios, a gambling addiction allegation. And by the way, his politics of Republicans buy sneakers too could make him even more politically problematic than LeBron James.
But because it was the early 90s, way before social media, that doesn't get near as much run as LeBron and the stuff that he said politically.
And this is where the Tom Brady thing confuses me because Tom played in the social media era. Tom's scandals have been very well publicized. Tom left a pregnant girlfriend to marry Giselle. Okay? That's problematic.
Yeah.
I know that, I'm not here to tell you that, if Giselle Bundchen is trying to holler at you, that you do things in a normal way. I'm just saying that's problematic, okay? Then, on top of that, he effectively chose football over the family he made, which is El Bunchen. That's problematic.
15 years later.
Even if your philosophy is, I don't want to meddle in players' personal lives, totally fine. That's probably how I should feel. Guess what? It's none of my business, his romantic life. It truly isn't. Guess what, though? Deflategate? Problematic.
And even though he wasn't implicated personally in Spygate, he still was the face of the franchise that got the heaviest punishment levied by the NFL in history, right? Maybe I'm wrong about that. It's still the heaviest punishment for a team in history for a cheating scandal in the NFL. One of the heaviest punishments for a team for a cheating scandal in the history of sports.
And if you care about this or not, Tom Brady is now in financial bed with the Saudis. Now, that might not be problematic for you. They've been really good to me and the company I work for, but for some people, again, I'm not saying evil. I'm saying, is it problematic for you that Tom Brady has the history that he has where, he cheated a little bit at least?
And even if you think a lot of people are like, Deflategate was such a silly thing to be punished for. Even if you feel that way, and he wasn't, like I said, he wasn't directly punished. He personally wasn't punished for Spygate. He wasn't implicated in that. Like, the reason why, even though Deflategate is a silly thing on its own to be punished for, because he was the quarterback of the team that proved to be cheating in the way that Bill Belichick and the Patriots were cheating when they were punished for Spygate, it felt to me like the league had no choice to say, even though this is basically jaywalking compared to that, we've got to throw you in prison the way they did by suspending him for 4 games.
It's just an interesting thing. Now, I'm not telling you don't be a fan of Tom Brady. I just don't fully understand why all of these things that, like, when you bring up LeBron James or you bring up other players that have a similar history, if you bring up any players, anything at all, like, hey, give me a controversy that so-and-so's involved in. We know what all of them are, right? And you cast a judgment or you make a thought on that thing.
It affects, like, I don't like to root for that guy because of this.
But Tom Brady's just like, well, he's really good at playing quarterback. I don't care if he's like, his hyper-competitive nature has made him into a hostile human being. I don't care. He's Tom Brady. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoyed the Tom Brady roast as much as all of you did. I thought that was a brilliant comedic moment in American culture. I loved it. I didn't like it. I loved it. I thought Tom he came away from that looking also like kind of a jerk, like that was hilarious. But his reaction to things, even during that show, you're just like, oh, yeah, man, I think I might not get along with Tom Brady. And that's fine. I don't need to be friends with him. I'm just amazed that in this
poll. And that's
poll,
not really, that wouldn't be your vote, right? Or would Tom Brady be your vote? Is the most problematic.
I actually debated whether or not I even wanted to put Barry Bonds in there because I knew
it
Barry
would be
Bonds,
a runaway it is.
Exactly, because Barry Bonds, substance, you're talking about performance-enhancing drugs.
When he was, like, talk about a guy who comes off as a jerk. Like, he handled that in such a terrible way from a public image standpoint, too.
And also, if you paid attention to, like, the stories about his teams and how he would relate to his teammates and stuff. Like, he was aloof to his teammates. He demanded his own bay of lockers, so not just his own locker. He didn't want anyone.
A bay by the bay. Wow.
He didn't want anyone near him in the locker room. That's like gross.
Yeah,
in a team sport, you're a jerk.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I actually have met Barry Bonds at a club in Las Vegas. He was nice.
Okay, good impression. All right.
He was nice. We had exactly 4 seconds of conversation, and he was nice.
All right. So, definitively, everybody was wrong about him.
So, I'm telling you, Barry Bonds is a great guy. No, So I debated on even putting him in because I knew that it would probably garner a result like this. But
if you take him out, it sounds like at least of the people who participated in your Twitter poll, the small sample size, LeBron is the most problematic guy, which is that's just the wrong answer.
I just don't
I'm
get
sorry.
It. I hate to break this news to you. Tom Brady's more problematic than LeBron James.
100 times more.
He just is.
LeBron, the only thing you could say that you might disagree with and you might feel gross about is that he and his girlfriend had their first child out of wedlock. But that's also that's also a strange thing to feel problematic about.
Oh, guess what? Tom Brady also had a child out of wedlock and left the mother while she was pregnant to pursue a supermodel. If that's that no one is using that as a reason.
No, they're not. I'm just saying everything else that you think he's problematic for, that's not a valid enough reason, in my opinion. Your opinion, it sounds like, too, to feel that he's problematic. No. And that isn't even a valid reason. The guy's state, like you said, Tom left in that situation. LeBron has built a huge family and is still with, I believe, is it Vanessa? Is that his
Savannah,
name?
Right?
Savannah, excuse me. Vanessa's, I'm thinking of Kobe.
Bryant, yeah.
Yeah, so Savannah James, they're still together, still very happily, married and raising their wonderful family. He's a family man. He cares about his community. He is handled the media spotlight better than probably anyone in the history of the world, certainly in sports and certainly in the NBA. You disagree with his political takes, that doesn't mean he's problematic.
I don't get the LeBron hate. I also LeBron is cringy. I'm not like a LeBron apologist. I don't love LeBron. I'm not like I have a LeBron James jersey. He's actually finally starting to put out some good shoes. Most of the LeBron shoes have been hideously ugly, which I care about. Most people don't.
You'd probably be surprised. There's probably huge number of people that care about that. He's problematic because his shoes are ugly, okay?
I mean, and look, I know that he's bought and sold like every athlete, and he has been supportive of a brutal Chinese regime because it pays him a lot of money and things like that.
I think that's
a way you could be problematic.
That's fair enough. So we found one thing.
But again, Michael Jordan has been enriched tenfold over what LeBron has by the same thing, by literally the exact same thing.
And the same kind of things that we're being critical of Tom Brady for, his the way he's handled romantic relationships. Michael Jordan also has that part of his history. LeBron does not.
Tom Brady famously, his stupid TB12 company that is just him and his agent took COVID money they weren't supposed to take. I mean, there's all of this stuff about Tom Brady where you're like, all right, man, but we just give him a pass because of his jawline.
and his 7 rings.
I guess it's wild, man.
And his underdog story, he's got all of that overshadows anything negative that he does.
Tom Brady, the football player, I'm like, you could begrudgingly, you have to respect everything about him.
You left out the most problematic thing about him. He was a New England Patriot.
That's gross.
It's gross.
And he was a Michigan Wolverine, which is also
Michigan Wolverine. Doubly for me, the most problematic things about him. I've said this before. Colts and Patriots may not historically sound like a great NFL rivalry, but because of Manning Brady, it is, right? And they just beat the Colts too many times for me to feel good about Tom Brady and the Patriots, all right? Plus, like you said, he's from that team up north that I hate. So there you go.
Anyway, keep the poll responses coming in at Real OC Sports. You can also weigh in 877-353-0700. Tom Brady is in the NFL crosshairs right now because, by the way, that's just a self-awareness thing, being like, I enjoy my role as a minority owner of the Raiders. I also enjoy my $38 million a year broadcasting job. Maybe I should not appear in a coach's booth with a headset on so that everyone now has to have a take about whether or not I can remain neutral.
Especially when the league has changed their rules to allow you to have this crazy lucrative broadcasting gig that anybody else, they would have been like, no, that's clearly against the rules. That's clearly a conflict of interest. But Tom, like they've done that for you, and you still are abusing it a little bit, at least from a public image perspective. Like, that's, come on, man. Dumb. And a little frustrating.
877-353-0700. We'll get to some responses on the text line. Actually, a good question has come in on the text line we'll get to on the other side. Trevor Riley might wander in. You never know. Adrian Denny between the pipes coming up in 20 or so minutes. And in 51 minutes, Mark Harlan, athletic director at the University of Utah. You know what? Text in a question. If you have a good question for Mark Harlan, I might ask it on your behalf. 877-353-0700. Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. We are 47 minutes away from Mark Harlan. 877-353-0700. If you want to ask him a question, text it to me. If it's a good question, I will steal the question and not give you any credit for it. If it's a mediocre question, I will steal the question and give you credit for it. All right? Let's make that tacit agreement here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Getting to the text line. Hey, you were talking yesterday about the pregame process for players with an early kickoff. Can you speak on what that looks like for players for home games? Are they driving to the facility at 6 a.m. from the campus? Are they together the night before and stay closer to the stadium? Thanks, and go Utes. At home games, you stay in the hotel up there by Repute Gardens. Or at least that's where it's been in the past. I actually don't know. I think that's the Marriott that they still stay at. There is a team hotel. It is a sleepaway camp the night before games. I believe that exception has been granted to like much older players who have kids in the past, married guys, right? But in the vast majority of cases, yes, you're staying with your teammates. It is a team process. The home hotel situation is very similar to the away hotel situation, except there's no flight involved. You're sleeping in a more familiar environment. The travel is reduced, etc. So the pregame process for Utah at Rice-Eccles Stadium is something that when you're talking about a true freshman, J.J. Buchanan will be doing this pregame process for the second time in his career, second home game in his career. For Devin Dampier, second home game at Rice-Eccles Stadium in his career. That process, though, for the players that are in their second, third, fourth years on this team is something that it's not quite the same as sleeping in your own bed, but it's kind of like sleeping in your own bed because you've been through it before. And the coaching staff does a really great job of minimizing the upset that your circadian rhythms are going to experience. Chef Pete and company are going to make sure these guys are fed the way that they need to be fed. And again, it's certainly something that you factor in and that you think about, but it matters more to you as a fan than it matters to the players. You have 12 of these business days every single year as a college football player. If they tell you got to play on the moon at midnight, you get ready to play on the moon at midnight. And as long as the other team has to do the same thing, then all other things are equal. It's the big noon kickoff effect on you, the fan, is more significant than it will be on the players on either team.
Well, and by the way, OC, even if it is something, no matter how much they're preparing to make it as regular rest, as regular of a game as they possibly can, you push back, you push up your bedtime a little bit on Friday night to make sure you get the same amount of rest as you would, whatever. The food you're talking about, the schedule with eating and all that, is as much as they've tried to put those plans into place, stuff's gonna get upset for some of these players. It's not gonna be ideal, but the reason why that's still not that big of a deal is because adrenaline is a thing. You can do so many things on adrenaline in terrible circumstances, in otherwise terrible circumstances, that can help see you through when you're performing well, right? So
except adrenaline can't last for 4 hours.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So when you're talking about the opening game scenario, yes, but that's another thing that I love having this conversation with people. It's if you go to any fight gym in the world, right? The way that folks will make fun of everyone who thinks they can fight but actually can't fight. Walk up to a random dude at I don't know, Vasa Gym who thinks he's tough, and he's gonna be like, "Yeah, dude, adrenaline. I just see red, and then I can fight." And it's just like,
not going to last you through a full fight.
That's going to last you 25 seconds, okay? What do you do when adrenaline is no longer a factor? Then there will be parts of games where you have that surge and things like that. You can't rely on it. But,
no, definitely not.
But the point is, when you're talking about baseball, right? These guys in baseball, they probably have to care about conditions, and even NFL players, soccer players have to care more about conditions. You're talking about 21-year-old kids. Like, their bodies can handle anything. Oh, you got a bad playing surface? All right, that sucks. Oh, you didn't get as much sleep the night before? All right, that sucks. At the end of the day, you have 12 of these guaranteed to you during the season. And by the way, you don't even actually have all 12 guaranteed, because one snap, you run into a damn table and it's taken away from you. There's nothing guaranteed. So I think the appropriate thing, and Kyle Whittingham alluded to this, right, is you can kind of like overdo your adjustment when you're worried about Florida being too hot and you're firing up the heaters and putting humidity into the practice facility. You might just have to show up and do the thing. And that's what this Utah team is going to do.
And make those natural adjustments in the moment, right? And
Yeah,
that tends to be pretty effective. Overthinking it, I don't know if over preparing is the right word, because I'm not one that believes you can really over prepare, but you can certainly overthink things and it affects your performance. It absolutely does.
How much sleep do you really need as a 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old to perform for 3-4 hours at an optimal level? How much sleep do you really need? It's not 8 hours, right? It's like you could probably get by on 4.5 when you're that age.
Yeah, 4 to 6 is probably you can probably get by on that.
And again, I will belabor this point until you're sick of it. Texas Tech has to do the same thing, but they have to do the same thing on the road. The food, the bed, the drive, all of it is unfamiliar to them. The air, the humidity or lack thereof, the altitude, it's going to affect Texas Tech more than it affects Utah. All right? And it's not going to determine the outcome of the game one way or another. The complaint about a 10 a.m. kickoff is kind of the same as the NFL's Thursday night games, right? You're just like, wow, short week turnarounds. These games suck. There are people out there. There are players out there. There are coaches, media folks, pundits who don't like the fact that the Thursday night NFL game even exists, because when you've got Sunday night football or Monday night football after a full week of rest and the late kickoff, and you're on the national television stage and you're in the spotlight and the players know it, you get the best version of those teams more often than not. Thursday night football, not so much. Thursday night football, you're getting guys who are a little banged up, a little bruised, et cetera, et cetera. And unless you're coming off a bye and the other team is not, which the NFL doesn't schedule those games that way anymore.
It feels like it's near impossible to do that because there just too many teams play on Thursday now. It wasn't near as much when they were able to schedule that bye before. Now it's like every team's going to play on a Thursday. We can't give every team a bye week before their Thursday. It's an impossibility with it. So yeah, it makes for lesser product a lot of the time.
And if that's what you get, if you get like 90% of what Texas Tech and Utah are both capable of in this game, that's unfortunate for the Big 12. It's not going to change the game. The game is going to be better team wins. As long as the officials don't bleep it up for the rest of us, it's just going to be that.
Well, and I don't think it's even fair to compare it to a short week either. Like I feel like if you're thinking that you're worried that the product's going to be for both teams, the product both teams put out there is going to be drastically less than a typical week. Like this is because of how Thursday night football is. This is like you're still 7 days apart between games. Yeah, take away a few hours, right? So I just don't think it's that big of a concern. But you're right. Fans will agonize over everything, and that's part of being a fan. But I'm with you. I cannot believe that it's possible that the head coach or the coaching staff, Kyle Whittingham and company, and the players are really agonizing over the fact that they got to play early. In fact, Kyle Whittingham has said all the time, if the game's scheduled at 6 a.m., I'd prefer that, right? I like to get the game out of the way, and let's play as soon as we possibly can. So I think he loves that it's at 10 a.m. And we'll see. If the Utes don't play very well, I don't think it'll have anything to do with the start time.
I think that big noon kickoff should also have a nighttime counterpart, midnight kickoff. Pac-12
midnight kickoff.
Pac-12 after dark.
SEC
way after dark.
SEC way after dark.
Pac-12 after hours. Where guys are like, what time? I could say this because I've competed in these scenarios before. Typically, in the fight world, you're fighting on a Saturday night. The big time fights have been on a Saturday night, right?
And late, right?
Yeah, it's usually late. It's usually, if you're the first fight on the card, you might get to compete in the evening. But if you're on the main card, you're competing at whatever,
10 p.m. local
11,
time,
midnight, whatever. We had a local show here before I made it to the big show where I fought. I was the co-main event. I wasn't even the main event. I was the co-main event. We fought at 1 a.m. There were like 22 fights on the card. All right. The weird thing is I fought in Australia. I fought in New Zealand. Those fights, they have you fight on a Sunday morning. Because then it's a Saturday night back home or whatever.
Oh, so it's still Saturday night in America. Yeah.
And now they do, now that we will be doing this in the first week of October for our PFL fights. We have this huge card going on in Dubai. You got to make a decision. Is it the Dubai prime time or is it the American prime time?
What was the turnout a lot lesser in those times when you had fights in Australia when it was Sunday morning?
No, because Australia only gets like 4 fights a year.
So it was like no matter what the time is, we're coming.
People show
up.
We're
going. Okay.
But your body has to make that adjustment. And here's the thing. It's the same philosophy I was telling you with college football players only having 10, 12 games that they get to play. If you're a fighter, you get 2 or 3 fights a year. If they tell
you make the adjustment,
you're fighting at 4 a.m. in a parking lot in Tijuana, you're just like, okay, that's what I'll do then. You make the adjustment.
I'll do the best I can to be ready to go. And typically, you are as ready to go as you possibly can be, right? Like even in like less than ideal circumstances, yeah, maybe if you really broke it down, you could find some really tiny, minute things like that would have been better at a later time.
I'm
but
sure
I
from
don't,
a sports
I don't know.
science perspective, there's ways that you could be like, no, the best time to compete is 4:40 p.m. because you're not getting tired from the early part of the day and you're not fatigued from waking up too late or whatever. But at the end of the day, this kickoff time matters to you, the fan, and to the television viewer a hell of a lot more than it matters to players and coaches. It's something for you to address your plans, your breakfast, your travel, your, oh my gosh, how am I going to make it to the Little League game? Or am I going to skip the Little League game? The players, this is your job. The coaches, this is the job you're paid millions of dollars to do. So you do it when they have to tell you to do it. In sports, television is the hand of God. You do things when people are willing to put it on television. That's it. And so you play it. And it's going to be fun. And I am not going to sit down on Monday morning, regardless of outcome, and say, wow, Utah really started slow. It was a sluggish start. That's because it was at 10 a.m. Well, no, because they played in Laramie, Wyoming last week in the late afternoon, early evening, and still started slow. Oh, Texas Tech could not get going in this game because it was at 10 a.m. If you're listening to somebody in Lubbock say that, it's an excuse and it's BS, and the coaches don't want it and the players don't want it. So it's going to be fine, everyone. We're going to have fun with it. Your tailgate breakfast burrito is going to taste so sweet when the Utes win a morning game.
All kinds of, instead maybe a few less beers, maybe a little more mimosas and Bloody Marys if you imbibe. Like you make those adjustments, right?
And you know what? It's a day you're not going to be judged for a breakfast beer. It's
No.
the only day you're not going to be judged for a breakfast beer if you're so inclined. I will be having Cracklin' Oat Bran with whole milk that
There
day.
you go.
A little splurge. All right?
Let's
Gotta
go.
take a break. We're going between the pipes. Adrian Denny is going to join us. Big 12 at noon stuff in the books. And now we shift our focus, before we get to Mark Harlan in half an hour, to Utah Mammoth hockey with Adrian Denny. It's Utah's number one sports talk, the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. Mark Harlan, Utah Athletic Director, joins us in 25 minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Right now, Adrian Denny, Between the Pipes, brought to you by Angora and Aladdin Industries. Friend of the program, Utah Mammoth Insider. Adrian, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, OC. How's it going, buddy?
Doing great. Mammoth Camp opening, players on the ice at a brand new facility down at the shops at Southtown, the old Southtown Mall, my stomping grounds growing up here in the Salt Lake Valley. First of all, have you seen the facility? How nice is this thing?
Yeah, here right now, in fact. Just stepped outside. It's a beautiful day to come outside and talk on the phone to you. But, yeah, we've been here all day, media day, hearing from GM Bill Armstrong, head coach Andre Cherney, the players, and, yeah, walking in and out by that beautiful rink. We were here last week, actually, at the rookie camp, Wednesday and Thursday, with the first 2 days on the ice here with the building opening up, and it's pretty awesome, as an athlete when you walk into a facility that's got literally everything you need. And we've heard players say, Maverick Glamour just told Mike and I a few minutes ago, he's like, I don't want to leave. Everything's here. So they're excited to have this be their new home office. And as you said, down the old stomping grounds for you at Southtown, convenient spot in the Valley to come be the headquarters.
This might be a stupid question, but the way that players and Coach GM, everyone's been talking about it, is this not a norm for an NHL team to have a facility quite as comprehensive as this one? Because guys that have come from other spots seem to be overly impressed by it, and that might be as much PR as anything else, but maybe I shouldn't assume that every NHL team sets their players up for success in this same way.
Do you know what, OC? In the last couple years, it's kind of started. Minnesota got a really nice facility downtown St. Paul. The Florida Panthers opened one up a couple years ago, and Utah kind of took that model and took it to another level here at Southtown. So, a lot of teams have their own facility that's an ice rink, but taking it to kind of an ice rink with the expanded space, the square footage for dry land training and the nutritional aspects of it, and a video room. We're going to get a tour of it coming up this afternoon with Governor Ryan Smith. But just the square footage and the resources and the access that the players have to literally everything they need, and some things too, just to have on the side to relax and have is convenient.
So news today, I saw it today. I don't know if it was public knowledge before today. Connor Ingram is not going to report to Mammoth Camp. The team and Ingram's camp are working together to find him a new spot. It seems like an amicable parting of ways from the guy who, when this whole experiment started, we thought was going to be the starting goalie for the Utah Hockey Club, and of course they're the Mammoth now. Your thoughts on Ingram's exit?
Yeah, he started last year as the starting goalie, and then his mother passed away from cancer, and Connor went into the player assistance program in March. And the great news is he's out of that, and by all accounts, hearing from GM Bill Armstrong, he's doing great, and that was the biggest concern of the team, is just making sure Connor is doing good, and he's in a good spot from a personal standpoint. And he got out of the program in August, and the team going into free agency wanting to make sure that we've got every depth piece taken care of, from forward to defenseman to goaltending. Signed Vitek Vanacek, who was the backup for the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, won 32 games with New Jersey 2 years ago. So that's the third goalie that Utah added. And looking at the situation, Bill telling us this morning that they've talked to Connor's camp's talked to them, that they're just going to start training camp. Connor's not going to be here. And at some point, Bill said They'll put him on waivers. If he clears waivers, he'll go down to Tucson and play in the American Hockey League. And if somebody claims him, he'll go to that NHL team and play in the NHL. But it's been since February, since he last played a game, right, coming back from the Olympic break. And that's the situation there. But for everybody, the good news is everybody's just happy that Connor's ready to go, ready to resume his career. And in the meantime, Utah's got Kirill Vejmelka and Vitek Vanacek as the two NHL goalies that'll be in camp.
So how much figuring out is there to do with this roster for Bill Armstrong, for Coach Tourney, with the usual suspects, the guys we got to know last year, some excitement over development of young players, who you drafted last year, who you drafted this year, the acquisition of the Russian guys. How much figuring out is there going to be done during this brief camp?
So as you look at the roster where it finished from last year and the acquisitions the team made over the summer, everything pretty much changed out evenly, right? You trade Josh Doan and Michael Kesselring for J.J. Peterka, so Peterka changes out with Doan for that forward spot. You sign Nate Schmidt, who is on that Florida championship team as well. He's a defenseman. He takes Kesselring's spot, right, theoretically. So every spot from the end of last year is, set as is. But as you said, OC, now you're adding 5 first-round draft picks to your camp. And Caleb Denoyer, who was drafted 4th overall, he's starting the year. He just had a wrist surgery, so he's going to be out till November, or we'd have 6 highly, placed first-rounders like Dmitry Simashev, Daniil Boot taken 6th and 12th overall, Tijay Ginla taken 6th overall. You got Cole Baudouin, a first-round pick from 2024, and then you got Maverick Lamoureux as well, a first-round draft pick from 2022. So you've got your roster seemingly set, but now you've got 5 first-rounders who are knocking on the door, and they're going to be close to, being everyday NHL players trying to come in and take one of these spots. But as we've heard over the years, Utah, especially in this situation now that we've kind of gotten out of the rebuild phase, right? This is year number 5 of the build that Bill Armstrong started in Arizona. So the Mammoth right now are in a position we're winning. We're not in the process anymore. We're not going to need to be developing guys in the NHL. They're going to develop in the AHL or in junior. So for one of those guys to take one of those spots, it's going to be a sure thing, okay? They're ready for the NHL right now, and they're in Utah to stay. It's not going to be something where they come, they made the team, but if it doesn't go smooth in the first month, we'll just send it back to the AHL. They want these guys, when they come here, to stay and stay for good and not have to send them back just for a number of reasons. The first one being it's a psychological toll to be told you're going back to the minor leagues when you're on an NHL roster.
How is Tijay Ginla's hip?
Tej, by all accounts, has looked great, and he played in the rookie tournament last weekend in Colorado. It's the first game action he's played in since December. So Tej looks 100% to us. However, hearing from him last week, you could tell maybe a look on his face and his language, like, boy, those medical procedures that he underwent on both hips, like that's a long road back from recovery, right? So take that into account. But gosh, he's got a shot and he's got that instinct, and he's a heck of a player, but not dismissing the fact that he just underwent major surgery on both hips.
Adrian Denny's our guest, talking Utah Mammoth here between the pipes on the Sean O'Connell Show. You already elucidated the sort of roster consistency detail. What about the lines? I mean, when you mix it up too much, that can be bad, but you want to find the perfect mix. And guys, even that are staples on this roster, maybe are developing more chemistry with, certain teammates than with others, and you're kind of settling into grooves here or there. How much variation do you think we see in the lines from Coach Bear, especially early?
The one addition of J.J. Peterka, he's a top six forward. You got your top six for your top two lines. Those are the scoring lines, right? Those are Dylan Gunther, Logan Cooley, Clayton Keller, the guys that are scoring your goals on the skill lines. And J.J. Peterka is a top six forward, scoring 28 goals 2 years ago, 27 goals last year, and he was traded, right, for Josh Doan, who was playing on the third line. So you're adding Peterka to the top six, your top two forward lines, which means somebody who was a top six forward last year is going to go down to the third line or fourth line. So that is going to be one adjustment to see, something in the preseason that you're going to look to sort out, because you've got Peterka. He's a top six, and he's going to be playing with those scoring guys.
The stated goal is let's win now. Let's start building towards being a playoff team. Let's move ourselves out of this rebuild, and into now we're a force to be reckoned with. I don't think there's even the most optimistic fans who say you're going to be a Stanley Cup favorite or anything like that. But it does feel like time to elevate into the playoff conversation. As this thing gets going early in the season with the integration of a couple, maybe young guys with Peterka, how long is it going to take until we find out whether this team is ready for that next step the way we think it is?
I think you'll see it right off the hop. They start the year on a 3-game road trip coming out of training camp, which I think is a good thing. My experience in hockey has been when you start the year on the road, you've got a road-heavy schedule early. You stay focused on hockey, you're dialed in, you continue the momentum going from training camp, and you're adding new guys to the lineup. So the more that they're together, the better. And when you're on the road, you're together 24/7. So you start the year off, the regular season, with a 3-game road trip starting on October 9th. You're in Colorado, and then Nashville, and then Chicago. 2 of those 3 teams didn't make the playoffs last year. I think it's a real chance for Utah to get off to a good start, and you got to hit the ground running. 80% of the teams that make the playoffs are in a playoff spot by Thanksgiving, and I think this team will. I think that the experience that they're adding and the momentum from last year when the team was in the hunt going into the final week and finished 7 games above 500, I think they're ready to make it, and I think it's going to come quickly, and I think the pieces you're adding, it's not going to take very long for these guys to get in sync, just with the veterans of Nate Schmidt, Brandon Tanev, and then you put the skill out there at J.J. Peterka. I think they're in a good spot, and that's exactly the message, OC. Maybe we don't talk about playoffs as much this year because maybe it's implied that's where the team wants to be, and that's what's going to happen in their minds. Versus we want to be in the hunt, which was year 4 of the rebuild last year. We want to be in a position to have a chance to make the playoffs going into the final couple weeks.
So as Utah looks to take that next step, they're not the only ones, right? Whose spot are you taking in the West, and who else is ready as a franchise to compete the same way?
Minnesota and St. Louis were the 2 wild card teams last year. I think you're trading spots with one of those 2 teams. Anaheim is another team that I think to watch for out west. Joel Quenneville, who led Chicago to 3 Stanley Cup championships, is now their head coach. They've kind of gone out of their rebuild. They've kind of started to go more into win now mode. I would say you look at Utah and Anaheim as 2 teams who didn't make the playoffs last year that have a pretty good shot this year. And St. Louis got hot, right? They were a 500 team at the Four Nations break in February with 2 months left. They got really hot, and Minnesota started the year off really hot, but then there was a drop off and they kind of backed into the playoffs. So I'd say those are the 2 teams you switch with.
Cannot wait. Home opener for Utah Mammoth hockey. First game where they're actually called the Utah Mammoth. Thursday, October 2nd against the LA Kings. That's coming up.
Yeah, first first event back in the newly renovated Phase 1 Delta Center.
I'm actually pumped. So our family got seats last year, and we were kind of on the attack corner, and because of where the seats were, there was an very minor obstruction to the kind of, I guess, the close corner in the ice, and kind of like from the dots over, and that's gone. They've elevated the surface, no obstructed view anymore. So I'm pumped to see the change.
Yeah, ice surface and the basketball floor lifted 2 feet, specialty risers for both sports. So can't wait to get back in there and check it all out, because that's going to be a lot of fun. And Chris Armstrong, president of hockey operations, telling us earlier today, last year at Delta Center was loud, it's crazy, it's like a rock show. He feels that this next phase of the renovation takes us to another level in terms of being an elite atmosphere in the NHL.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Adrian will be with us the whole way through this Mammoth season, which is coming up quick. Thanks for your time, sir. Appreciate you.
Thanks, OC. Talk to you next week.
That's Between the Pipes with Adrian Denny, brought to you by Angora and Aladdin Industries. And by the way, we didn't address it on the air. It was all over social media, but as long as we're talking Mammoth hockey, I'm sure people saw this. Belle Fraser, who was a huge asset for the program, big friend of the program, she got a job for the Boston Bruins. So congratulations to her. I mean, it was very, very obvious that she is one of the brightest young stars in hockey media, and we were lucky to have her for that inaugural season. So, but you won't be hearing as much from Belle Fraser. Hopefully we'll still get her on.
Yeah, like the Bruins play at the Delta Center this year. So, hopefully she's in town with the team in that case, and we'll try to get her on, certainly on those weeks when they're playing. But we'll try to get her on playoffs too. Like she had some great thoughts around the league last year on the playoffs, and yeah, I'm glad we're taking this time to say thank you to Belle, because she really was incredible writer, incredible radio guest, and you could tell, like you said, she's got a bright future ahead of her. We just wish we would have had her in Salt Lake a little bit longer, but good for her.
Deeply, deeply knowledgeable about the sport, and really, really cool to see her get that opportunity. Although I'm bothered with big cities right now, because Philadelphia takes Tony Jones from us. Boston takes Belle Fraser back. Knock it off, East Coast cities.
Yeah.
I don't like you anyway.
Those people are our people. All right, they're people. I mean, Tony did go to high school in Philly, but that doesn't matter, okay?
He was in Utah long enough that we...
Yeah, he's a Utahn.
Don't love it. Anyway. Diego Pavia is not just in the headlines because Theo Vaughn wants to date his mom, although we will touch on that as well. Something you need to look out for with the Vanderbilt quarterback. And that's probably the first time that sentence has ever been uttered on Utah Sports Talk Radio. Mark Harlan in about 8 minutes. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, Diego Pavia is not just upsetting traditional college football powers. He's trying to get dates with Tate McRae in exchange for dates with his own mom for Theo Vaughn. It's very odd, but more importantly, in our Valley Plumbing Daily Dump, Diego Pavia's ongoing case against the NCAA is something that you should probably pay close attention to as more developments come out. He is arguing that junior college seasons will not be counted against someone's eligibility clock. That's what he's going for. Now, JUCO is not as much a thing as it used to be because of the transfer portal for the most part. It's kind of a no man's land right now in college football, if we're being honest. But JUCO used to be a place where guys would go to get eligible if they were really highly recruited players that sucked at school. They would go to JUCO. That's still a thing, right? Now those players, if Diego Pavia can win this case, would still have 5 years to play for, assuming that precedent is set and followed after that. 5 years to play for once they get to major college football. Diego Pavia is very self-aware and knows, like, I'm probably not going to be an NFL guy. So I want to play college football for as long as I can because he's an SEC quarterback. He's making $1 million+ dollars.
Yeah, I was going to say, even at Vanderbilt, where they're not investing near as much into their football program as like LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Florida.
For quarterbacks, though, you got to pay.
Well, and especially with the results that he gave them last year and this year beating another ranked team in South Carolina, he's getting a significant amount of money. So, yeah, absolutely a no-brainer move for him to try to do this. And I think I actually kind of agree because JUCO is not part of the NCAA. So why should it count towards your NCAA eligibility?
The interesting thing here is Diego Pavia has said, I don't plan on playing in 2026, but the lawsuit is ongoing. So,
yeah.
Really, Diego?
Is he saying that to cover all his bases, maybe? I don't know. That it's strange to be suing for an extra year when you're not going to use it.
So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep you updated on it. We'll take a break here, and we'll come back with Mark Harlan, athletic director for Utah Athletics, ahead of a big week for Utah football and all of us here in Salt Lake City. Big noon kickoff spotlight opportunity. Mark Harlan in 3 minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. 877-353-0700. If you have a question for the Utah Athletic Director, Mark Harlan, you'd like me to ask, text it in now. If it's a good question, I'll take it, claim it was my own question. If it was a just okay question, I'll give you credit for it. We're lucky enough to have Mark Harlan here on the show with us for the next, I don't know, we'll probably keep him longer than we promised because that's usually what we do to the AD up at the U. Mark, how are you? Welcome back to the show.
Hey, Sean. Great to talk to you. Thanks for the invitation. Always good to get caught up.
So, big week up on campus, big noon kickoff. I saw the set already getting set up. Ranked opponent coming in, 10 a.m., spotlight spot for this Utah football program. And, you know, what does that do for your schedule, for your duties in a week like this?
Well, it's about the staff here and all the work they're doing, interfacing with Fox and, putting up, like you said, a great set, a great environment that, we were lucky enough to kind of find out last week. We just weren't allowed to announce it. So we've had a little lead time to work on it. And there's been so many people across campus. It's you hope during the football season to have, 1, 2, 3, whatever it might be, opportunities to be the star of in the country. And I think this is our opportunity. If you look at it, with the show really beginning with the guys from Barstool at 7 a.m. and then Big Fox going on at 8 a.m. with their show all the way through the game. I mean, you're really talking about hours upon hours of national television to focus on this community and this university and of course, this amazing football program that has allowed all of this to happen. So a lot of people really excited, and we're fired up to get to the weekend.
So I think all of us are kind of pulling on the same rope in that we want this national spotlight to translate to all the things that you hope it does. Increase revenue for the programs up there in the athletic department, increased enrollment at the University of Utah, a more positive outlook on the community here in our state and things like that. What can we do on the station? What can Utah students and fans do, in your mind, to kind of put the right foot forward as we get those 8, 10, 12 hours of exposure?
Yeah, well, obviously it starts from these shows, whether it's Game Day or certainly Big Noon Fox show. The energy comes from the people that are there. If there were just a bunch of dudes sitting on a stage outside with a television camera, it wouldn't be very exciting. What makes Utah special is what we've seen before when Game Day's been here, right? And look no further than a few years ago, we just lit it up, and they said it was one of the best shows of the year. We heard that all fall. Same thing with Fox coming in. Our opportunity to host them for the first time ever. We got one of our own, an Urban Meyer, coming back. I mean, I know it's early, and I appreciate it, but getting there early, seeing Dave Portnoy and his team that will kick off the whole morning's festivities, and then leading right into the Big Noon Fox show. We're going to have free food out there. We're going to have just an environment, DJ. It's just going to be fun. Obviously, our students bring the energy as they do in the game, but this is beyond just our students. This is the public that just come down and celebrate Utah football. We're going to have a lot of trucks out there for the public, food, just a lot of great giveaways. So come on down. I like to say take a nap later, but come down and take it all in, and just let's make. This is an opportunity for our family to come together and show the country what University of Utah is all about.
The trepidation that people were expressing, like, 10 a.m. kickoff, is Rice Eccles and the environment going to be like it's supposed to be? I don't share that concern, Mark, with a lot of the people that have texted into the show or even, talked to me privately, like at Smith's or whatever. I just think that, this fan base turns out, and the fact that it's 10 a.m. just means you got breakfast in your belly instead of lunch or dinner. But is there anything special that needs to be done from like a parking plan? I don't know. Like, are you worried that Rice Eccles in that first quarter is not quite Rice Eccles?
Well, listen, obviously we have not done a 10 a.m. kickoff before. So we don't know until we know. I believe the staff's done just an incredible job at, obviously, putting it all on our website, go on there, see all the information, where to park if you don't have a parking pass, come to the show, go in the stadium, whatever it might be. Look, we were at Colorado last year, and they've had a few 10 a.m.s in the last year or so. that place was electric from the moment it started till the moment the game was over. And I know our fans are better than Colorado fans. I flat out know it. And we've proved that through the years. So I challenge our fans to say, you know what? It may not be the best time, might be not the first time you pick, although I've had a lot of people come up to me in the same supermarket and say, boy, it's really nice not to have a late game. Now, those are coming later, right? Let's not deny that. But this is an opportunity for people to come down and be a part of this national commercial for this university and this football program, because our guys work so hard for this moment. And I think it's really important. I got a kick out of reading that Texas Tech has gone indoors this week with their offense because they know how loud it's going to be. So they're working to try to figure out a way through it, but we're going to show them no matter what the kind of work they did, they're going to jump off sides. You know, we're going to be helped by our fans to win this football game.
Mark Harlan, Utah Athletic Director, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, ahead of a huge matchup, ranked Utah, ranked Texas Tech. The sort of early power structure of the Big 12 Conference will start to figure itself out, largely because of the result of this game. For me, Mark, there's another storyline here with Texas Tech being kind of the new money, the new kid on the block in the NIL era. Cody Campbell's been very generous with that program, and obviously Utah's supporters have been very generous as well in this new era to get the roster that you have, to get Devin Dampier here, and to make sure that you retain these offensive tackles that are preseason All-American caliber type players. But it feels to me like there's more than just Red Raiders versus Utes here. It's also this conversation about, and what we can infer about, like, can you just infuse a bunch of money into a program and have that be enough in order to win games? And of course, it can't just be this game and the result of this game that we make that judgment on. But is there anything there for you, for the Utah Athletic Department, in like that? Well, we have built it. We have a culture here. It's not just about purchasing talent, although you are willing to, and this coaching staff is willing to also participate in that free market. But is there something to be said about, however it plays out, regarding the financial structure of Texas Tech versus Utah, a new money team versus one that's built a more traditional way?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've done a nice job with their roster. There's no question about it. I haven't seen them play. I've had a chance to talk to some of our coaches who've been studying their film, and obviously they're formidable, particularly on their defensive line. I think over these last 3 years, Sean, as you and I have discussed on the show, there's been no real guardrails, right, and no compliance. And so this, with the settlement finally kicking in this last July, you were still able to front load your team. So, we're still going to be playing teams, throughout the year that have different levels. As we settle into the settlement, which is we're all capped at $20 million for the most part going forward, we'll see some of these things start to change into a more equalized environment. But I take, no fault of anybody that came forward and supported football teams. I mean, we've doubled our NIL this, for football with the rev share era for this team. You mentioned all the people we retained and recruited in. And, of course, we have the best coaching staff in America to assemble a great environment for them. But, if it wasn't the settlement, if we were still in this environment, I'd kind of go with where you were asking there. But I think now that the settlement's in play, we're probably about 12 months away next season of seeing kind of a more settled environment where most football teams will be between 14 and 15 million in the settlement. So we'll wait and see how it plays out. But I'm actually going to meet Cody this week. He reached out to me. We had a nice text exchange. I'm going to have a little visit with him. I appreciate how involved he is with college athletics. He played football at this level. He obviously is very passionate. I look forward to saying hello and kind of listening to him on what he's thinking about.
Yeah, I begrudge nobody who's earned that for themselves, and you spend your money the way you want. That'd be, I could see myself doing the same thing, being like, let me see if I can get my Utes or the Weber State Wildcats or some random whim of a team. Let's see if I can elevate their status. And I think it's neat that you have this now, and I think it's neat that these student athletes benefit from it. Now that we are in the settlement era and in the actual, revenue sharing era, I know that puts a lot more on an athletic department's plate. And it's not just football that benefits from this. It's not just football that you have to accommodate in the revenue sharing world. And Utah's a very unique athletic department where, the Red Rocks are more of a featured program here in Salt Lake City than a lot of even Big 12 or even NCAA gymnastics programs are. So as you've navigated this relatively new era of making sure football is taken care of, and men's basketball needs this infusion to bring them back to the standard that we expect, and women's basketball has become such a thing on campus, and of course the aforementioned Red Rocks, how has the process been in making sure all mouths get fed and everyone stays happy? Easier said than done.
Well, we've been working on this for a long time, and we had a great team put together. We knew from our great fan base and other revenue opportunities that we were going to max, as we would be expected to do, which is just about 20.5 million this year. And then the next process is what you're alluding to, is how do you divide that all up? And you mentioned some of those sports that obviously are at a very high level, and we want to keep those sports at a very high level, and we have growing sports too. So at the end of the day, we met with all our coaches, we went through it with an eye on competitiveness. If I felt like in football or basketball we were not where we needed to be, then we made those adjustments as we move forward. The other thing that we were able to do is add about 26 new scholarships to the program, and we had some sports that said, "Hey, Mark, I'd rather have extra scholarships than revenue share." So we were able to do that. So we listened to our coaches, and we settled into this new era. So people love to come here. They love to work here. They love to coach here. I've got type A coaches. That's what you want, who strive and really put forward what they want. But now that we're all settled in, we know what we've got this year, and I'm really excited by the way all our coaches are handling it. I'm excited 3 of our 4 teams are in the top 25 right now that are competing in the fall, and many sports, I think, as they begin their 20-hour work weeks, as we now like to say here, I think we're going to see a lot of success in this conference this year.
Staying focused on football for now, because that's the big story here in this week, and obviously Texas Tech coming in, the big noon kickoff scenario for anyone tuning in right now. We're talking with Mark Harlan, athletic director at the University of Utah. I was relieved, pleasantly surprised, I don't know the right way to say it, to see that Utah football in the preseason and now in the early season was, I thought, treated really well by the national media, by a lot of people said, hey, we know what happened last year. We know what happened 2 years ago. That was injury-based. This is still Kyle Whittingham's program. They've made some necessary changes, some improvements on the roster through NIL, through the transfer portal, and that's a team that is going to be back. I mean, I think it proved to us that nationally this is a team with a presence now, that everyone knows the secret is out, that all of the things being equal, without an injury bug biting you, Utah football is a force to be reckoned with. And obviously Jason Beck and Devin Dampier and all the newcomers have helped in that effort, but that is a testament, I think, more to what Kyle Whittingham has done and Morgan Scalley has done and the long-standing coaching staff here, that even after a really rough year, a rebound is expected, and so far so good on the rebound. But what does that say to you as the man at the head of this athletic department, that even after you have a season that is far below the standard, everyone doesn't just hope you can get back there, but they expect that you're going to get back there and you're going to do it in short order?
Well, we certainly appreciate, always being talked about, although it's not something that those inside that building or any other sports overly pay attention to. But the reality is the equity that has been built by Kyle Whittingham in this program. You mentioned, the coordinators and, of course, all the players that have come through here that, listen, you're going to have a tough year. It's a tough sport. And you're going to have years where you get hit with an injury or get hit with just circumstances that you just can't control. And I think most of the folks that follow college football know what we have here. We sold out again this year. We had a 98% renewal rate coming off that season. I mean, all those things, I think are a testament to we're not a season here. We're a program. And I think that the national media certainly recognized that. And then to your earlier point, with the added investment, we were able to retain some really big-time players. Whit did a phenomenal job on that offensive coordinator search, talking to him during that process, working with Morgan. It was just a great process. I mean, we talked to some big-time people and to bring Jason in, and of course to get Devin in, and it's just that was all noted too. And then the work they did. The work is not seen by the media. It's unbelievable the kind of time and effort, the steadying we did after the season of injuries, some of the adjustments that were made. A lot of work has gone in from the moment we got on that plane after UCF last year. It's been intense. So it's been great to see. It's a very early season. We all recognize that. We got a lot of work ahead, but I know we can do this with the kind of leadership we have in Kyle and the team and our fans, who I know, again, are going to be a huge part of what I hope to be a great victory on Saturday. And I hearken back to the USC game a couple of years ago, obviously an epic game, and everyone talks about the 2-point. But the thing I remember the most is after the 2-point, when the Heisman Trophy winner had the ball and his voice could not be heard, and they jumped off sides twice. We're going to need that on Saturday, and I have no doubt, I should say, that that's exactly what's going to happen.
How much, when you talk about the work, and that is something that goes on so much of it behind the scenes, I'm fascinated, by the way, not only the longevity of Kyle Whittingham, but the fact that a guy with such an old school mentality has adjusted to a new school environment in college football with pay for play, with transfer portal, with re-recruiting your own players, and done so with aplomb and found success in this regard. And I know it's not just the football program. You can make the same points about what's going on with women's basketball right now, where you had to make a head coaching transition unexpectedly last year. The Red Rocks, it seems like, not to diminish the work done by whoever is leading that program, but it seems like, you plug anyone in there, it's a machine. And it's like you said, it's not a season, it's a program. That feels harder from an outsider perspective, Mark. That feels harder now than it ever was, because sports are a business, and you still have to meet people where they are with the business side of things, but you have to also remind everyone or maintain the culture of college sports. And even with, choosing Jason Beck and Devin Dampier among all the available candidates and all the available quarterbacks, you found people that fit Utah. You found people that fit what Utah football is supposed to be in the minds and eyes of your fans. It feels like really threading a needle. How difficult is threading that needle?
Well, let's go back to what you were saying earlier about Kyle in particular and, adapting to the times. That's what the greats do, right? I think that, whatever business you're in, you're going to have changes, there are tariffs and how businesses are trying to figure that out. We've gone through our certain changes just like many others, but, leadership means that you don't complain about it. You figure it out and you get strategic. And, that's what I've been so impressed with Kyle. Is it a different thing what he was doing 5 years ago? Sure it was. Was it different when he was coaching in the Mountain West than it was into the Pac-12? Sure it was. So you go along all these different things that he's done. He's just surrounded himself with great people. We've all learned in the revenue share era, in the NIL era, things that we did right, things that we didn't do as well as we hoped for. But I think we're really settling in here, especially now that we've hit this new phase where we're being very analytical. I can't tell you how much data goes into revenue share now and all of that stuff. And now we're getting more data. And Whit loves that. I don't know if it's known as much publicly how much data he goes through after games, all the different things he looks at, the analysts. And all of this is a very objective process. You try to take the subjectivity. But at the end of the day, the culture is what I think people have been questioning. Can we keep the culture? And I would say that, we've done just that. And, certainly Kyle leads that. But I think here too, we've got high paid individuals, but they're still going to class, right? They still have great, values. I was telling someone the other day, Devin is a high on a revenue share number. Let's just be candid. But the way he acts, the way he is around people, whether it's his teammates or anybody else, you never know because he's just a great young man. And I think that's the kind of people we're still going to look for at the University of Utah. We're top 5 in the country in graduation rates. We're 39 semesters over 3.0. Football's got one of the top graduation rates, and we have not slid during these last 3 years. So, you can do it all. You just have to be really strategic and really thoughtful. And guys like Whit and other coaches here have really, really done a great job. And we all get together. We all talk about what this person's doing, how we can help this team. That's our one team approach here at Utah. But real proud of everyone's efforts. And obviously, in the case of football, it's led us to such a big weekend, and we're all really looking forward to it.
Cannot wait for kickoff, 10 a.m. at Rice-Eccles Stadium, big noon. It's a huge spotlight for this University of Utah football program and for the campus, the athletic department by extension. Mark Harlan is our guest for a couple more minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show. He is the athletic director, for those who are uninitiated, at the University of Utah. I wanted your assessment on what I thought was a really beautiful, for me, was a very personal thing. Coach Ron McBride helped me a lot in my college football career, helped me to have what I could actually call a college football career. And we also got to know and see more of Roy Jefferson. For the modern Utah football fan, I don't know how significant their awareness was of his contributions to the program and to the university and to the community before it was announced that he was going to be a member of the Ring of Honor. You're now in the second year of this. You're now 3 names up there on the facade at Rice-Eccles Stadium, and I just wanted your thoughts on how our first home game went, that halftime ceremony with Ron McBride being honored, with Roy Jefferson being honored, and how the Ring of Honor situation is going up there for you in the athletic department.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. And I know as a former player, you may have noted, or fans noted, I certainly in 18, that, although if you go through the incredible Eccles Football Center over on Guardsman, you'll see, representations of former teams and certainly some individuals. But, I felt like in the cathedral that is Rice-Eccles Stadium that we really needed to, celebrate the elite of the elite, similar to what we do in the Huntsman Center. And, after developing some plans and talking to a lot of people, we got the right people working on it. And there's a small committee that, presents names to me. And this year, just 2 outstanding folks. And obviously, if you don't mind, let me just talk about Roy real quick. I mean, getting to know him, his story was really one of the highlights of my career here. And just an amazing man, a wife of over 60, plus years in Candy. They met here when he was a student athlete. She grew up here in Utah, and his career, just a fabulous man. The family had a great time. We had a great event the night before in the stadium for them. And then, of course, Coach McBride, who I've known personally for 30 plus years. Listen, he's a big transformer of this program. I don't need to recite it. I think people know, and getting to know Urban over these last 5-6 years. I mean, he'll tell you, you don't come up from like a group of 5 and walk into Utah and expect the kind of roster that he had. He is very honest about what he had there. He had Alex Smith and others, and Urban did his thing and took that team. But he's just an amazing man, amazing person. The millions that his foundation have raised, and so for all the right reasons, obviously, with Alex, now we have 3, and the group's already working on the next group. And it's just fun to look at these people. There's so many amazing folks. And I've been pleased that people really have enjoyed what will now be a tradition, the Ring of Honor tradition. And we really appreciate everyone that stayed in their seats at halftime. I was very emotional on the field. I don't know if people could tell. There was a lot of tears flowing from a lot of people, and it was a great day.
It really was. It was a beautiful thing to see. And then, when that one settles, of course, then it's like, okay, who's next? So, Mark, I'll keep it between us. Just tell me right here on the air who's next into the Ring of Honor.
Here's what I can absolutely assure you: they will have played or coached football at the University of Utah. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's very helpful. That narrows it down for us pretty significantly. I like that.
There you go.
As you try to stay focused on football and on a huge weekend in football, you got basketball season right around the corner. It's a new era. You got Coach Jensen back and in the old stomping grounds this time as a coach, and some momentum there and some news coming out there with players making their visits and committing and things like that. I know that football is front and center right now, but as you said, you've got other ranked teams participating in fall sports and the winter sports just around the corner. So how do you what's your outlook right now for Utah basketball?
Yeah, I'm really excited about all those winter sports. We had a meeting last night, with all our leadership of our 19 teams, and we went through the fall updates with those sports, and members of those teams talk about how it's all going, and then I had to start laughing when we got to our winters and just starting our 20 hours, which is when they really get into their official workouts. And so basketball is coming fast, right? We start regular season beginning of November. Great group of young men. Really gotten to know them. I love going over and peeking in on practice. Just a group that's coming together real fast. I mean, certainly Alex and Wes and the rest of that staff realize that the thing they got to do is get these guys to trust and love each other as fast as they can, right? Because the athleticism and all that is something they're gifted with. But how do they come together as a team and get after this best conference in America? But, a lot of energy in that program, and really excited about, watching those guys play. I think, pleased with so many people that have come back to Utah basketball. We're selling a lot of tickets. We're really pleased about that because, that's another sport that really, fan sport can make such a big difference. But, and certainly with women's basketball, Gavin and all the work he's done, he's had a fabulous year of roster additions, and, we could go on down the list. I would say this, second year in the Big 12 feels a lot more normal for everybody here. I think we were honest and candid with ourselves at the end of the year that we didn't get everything we wanted out of our teams last year, and we spent a lot of work on that. But I think people feel a lot more comfortable where they're going, who they're playing against, strategies that's being deployed against us, or what we need to do against them. And I've just seen a different spirit as we're in the second year from our student athletes and coaches. So we're ready to get after it. And like I said, our fall so far is off to a great start. We just got to continue the momentum.
On the big picture front, football, determines a lot of what happens in athletic departments and on university campuses. And, we've had Utah's been part of a couple rounds of realignment now, the move to the Pac-12 and then the eventual move to where we're at now in the Big 12. And still there's these rumblings behind the scenes about, well, what about further Big Ten expansion and who gets called where? And is the current conference model even going to be maintained, or are super conferences eventually going to be a thing? How do you balance being where your feet are and embracing fully membership in the Big 12 and competing for these championships and living in this present, and also being prepared for what might be coming in the future?
Tune it out. I mean, that's all you can do. I mean, especially in the summer, what I call the silly season, where, everyone's got this team going that place. I mean, we are locked into the Big 12. We're looking to dominate the Big 12. That's what we invest in. That's what we recruit to. That's what we're all about. All that other stuff, as we learned very vividly, but two years ago, that stuff's out of our control. All we can do is just be great in this conference, be great in the community, be great in the classroom, and maximize everything that we're blessed to have here that's been given to us by so many people. So that's all we can do. And I think, we've proven that this weekend with what's happening, right? I don't see this show or this network kicking off anywhere else but in our stadium. And I think that's really our goal, be the very, very best where we are. Let's not look over any fences. Let's not look back. Let's just look exactly, as you said, where our feet are and get after it and have a lot of fun along the way.
Last big picture question: as college football playoff expansion or not decisions are made by the end of this year, we've seen and heard different cases to be made and the different models to be proposed, and it seems like Big 12 departments and Big 12 teams are kind of in alignment with Brett Yormark and what the company line has been. But how do we foresee the votes going? How do we foresee the decisions being made on an eventual change in the brand new still college football playoff model?
Yeah, I've kind of been on the record before that, we're 1 year into the 12, and, I thought it was a really good system with one exception, which was, as a former member of the committee and how hard we work, I didn't like how the automatic qualifiers were just going to get the bye. I wasn't real thrilled about that. On the outset, I thought that would kind of throw off the whole bracket, and I think that's what we saw. I mean, look no further than an ASU team who I thought was great, but they were ranked 11th, but then they got a bye. So, I like the fact that we've gone to straight seeding. I think where we are with automatic qualifiers makes sense. It means a lot to win a conference championship. To your point about going forward, there will be some further conversation about that. Should we expand it? What do the television networks think about it? How does it work? We certainly have some conferences that have been very vocal about multiple AQs. I think we got to be very careful there. We don't want a championship that, is not based on how you did rather than your brand. I think the CFP has proven that, in my opinion, being on it and also seeing others been on it and studying it very closely, keep that stuff out. So we'll see. I mean, obviously college football has got a lot of different roads to go. I think the 12 team was great. I think it made the regular season special. But if you do too much of that, is the regular season going to stay special? Commissioner Yormark's great about getting us together as a group of ADs talking about it. So he goes into that room with the others, with what we're looking at. He's really, really good at that. And he'll be here this weekend too, by the way. He's really excited about coming out and being here. But we'll see what happens, Sean. But I think that's going to gain some maybe newsworthy stuff here in the next couple of weeks, because I think we have to kind of make a decision here shortly what we want to do with the playoff going forward.
Before I cut you loose, I want to finish focus where the focus should be, with a big showcase matchup for Utah against Texas Tech at Rice-Eccles Stadium on Saturday morning. I'm a believer that this is a Utah football win that probably puts you in the top 12-ish rankings-wise, and I know there's plenty of work left to be done even after a win on Saturday. But what does a win do for Utah football in your mind as the head of this athletic department?
I think it's another step in the process that Whit and his staff and his team is going through, a step toward hunting down a Big 12 championship. We know that after this one, be nice because it'll be early in the afternoon. Coaches get to spend some time with their families. Our guys get to go home and rest. Then they'll be right back to work with the West Virginia team that, obviously just beat Pitt last week. And by the way, that's going to be another national telecast on Fox during the day. So you know how it is. You played. You're on to the next. Obviously getting back to where we started, our fans are going to play a big part. I really honestly think the story of this game is going to be how maniacal our stadium is going to be. I don't care if it's dark. I don't care if it's early, late. I think that's going to be the story. And I do encourage everyone to go on our website, utahutes.com. Everything's there, how to participate pregame and through the show and all of that, and then just walk on over. I will say the show will go into the stadium 45 minutes before kickoff. They'll have a stage set up there, and Urban and all the guys will go in there and continue the broadcast so everyone can get in there and get a piece of that too. But listen, man, it's a long road. Football seasons take all their turns. I think we put in the work to put ourselves in a great position. I think our crowd's going to help us win, and then we'll move on from there.
What are we wearing, Mark? All red? Everyone show up in their red? Are we going red out? People wearing white, black? What's going on?
Red always works. Red always works. And then we want everyone's voice nice and hoarse by around 2:30 in the afternoon. That's what we want.
Well, I'll see you out there on Saturday. Appreciate your time today. Look forward to this weekend. Look forward to this whole season. And very, very much appreciate you giving us time in a busy week, Mark. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Sean. Appreciate you.
That is Mark Harlan, athletic director at the University of Utah. It is a big week for not only Utah football, but that Utah football is the front porch of the university, of the athletic department. It is the tip of the spear, so to speak, in everything you're trying to do as an athletic department. So a good result this weekend. And when I say good result, I don't just mean a win. I mean a good turnout. I mean a raucous environment, folks in red turning up, being loud, being crazy, showing people how enthusiastic not only Utah is, but the Big 12 is about college football right now. It all matters, man. It just does. Somewhere there's a sponsor, a company that's like, do I want to be involved with this conference? Do I want to be involved with this university? There's a Cody Campbell equivalent somewhere that's like, you know what, Utah football, that's a fan base I could be a part of. Show up, be there, be loud, have fun. It's red for me. It's red, and it's drum and feather, circle and feather, all right? If all you got's the interlocking U or the old block U, that's fine too. But be there and wear your red. All right, plenty left to get to on the Sean O'Connell Show, although we'll have to do it very quickly. We're going to double this break, James? Yeah, we could. Okay, we'll do that. All right. Either way, we're back in 3 minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Big thanks to Mark Harlan for joining us on the show. If you didn't catch it live, you can find it at ESPN700sports.com, the on-demand section. You can find it on our ESPN 700 Sports app, which I know you've already downloaded. Reminder, we've got Canna Fan Fest coming Saturday, September 27th at Granary Live. Big Buddha, our very own Big Buddha, is going to host to elevate, educate, and celebrate at Canna Fan Fest Saturday, September 27th. Granary Live musical performances, and most importantly, our guy Big Buddha hosting. James, you heard the whole Mark Harlan conversation. He's obviously excited about the opportunity for Utah football this coming weekend. The revenue sharing model that Utah has embraced is not easy. I'm not going to grill Mark Harlan on the details because it's too in the weeds for the average sports fan, but like it's not easy to find 26 extra scholarships in a budget and that's part of the settlement, by the way, the roster limits, right? But like $20.5 million, right? So $20.5 million. You have to find that in a budget for an athletic department that with the Big 12 transition last year was already operating at a deficit, right? Now you got to find 20.5 extra. And to do that, to thread that needle, takes a whole staff of people. When I went to pick up my credential at the Huntsman Center, at the offices, right? It was like, I don't know, 9 a.m. on a Monday, and you would think, I mean, it is a bustling hive of activity of people going. And I was like, man, what's going on here? What's happening? And one of our friends up there was just like, what do you mean? This is how it always is. I mean, it was like a newsroom floor. It's like the Wall Street stock market. People are grinding, trying to make things happen for your athletic department at the University of Utah, for your favorite football player, for your favorite basketball player, for a basketball program that you hope to be resurgent this year under Alex Jensen. It takes a lot of work behind the scenes. And to add the scholarships that this department did and to be paying out money, I mean, I appreciate the candor. Mark Harlan saying, it means something that Devin Dampier walks around with the humble nature that he's got because he's got a big revenue number. He's got a big revenue sharing number, which is also insight because there's the possibility, right, where you could just say everyone on that team, all 100 players, get the same amount of money. That's not how it's done in the NFL. That's not how it's done in the NBA. That's not how it's going to be done in college football. That's not how it's done with any college football program right now. And your quarterback's your top paid guy, and good on him, right, for maintaining the personality that he came from New Mexico with. The hunger, the underdog attitude, the humility. It's really interesting to see where this program is right now, where it's headed, and the opportunity that presents itself this weekend with Big Noon coming back.
Well, it's obviously really complicated on its face because it's $20 million for I don't know how many hundred of athletes.
That's like 1,000 athletes.
Thousand athletes across the athletic department. It's not just for your top revenue sport, football, although that's the thing that we think of covering college athletics, and you think of as our great listeners and fans of college athletics. You think of, well, this money's going to football, right? Well, no, it's being spread across every team in the athletic department, which that's in and of itself complicated. Makes it even more complicated when you try to do the thing that you just mentioned is done in every other sports league that has revenue sharing, which includes college athletics now. You pay this guy this much. It's unequal. You pay this guy this much. He gets the most or she gets the most. This guy gets this much. That's the least. He or she gets the least there. This is the middle ground. Like, when you're doing it unequal like that, makes it even more complicated, and that's the way it ought to be. But that's quite an endeavor that the University of Utah has had to navigate. I thought it was a great question by you. How are you guys navigating this? And great insight and kudos to Mark Harlan for being very honest, like you said, and giving us some of those honest insights on there when he could absolutely have been like, yeah, you know what, we're working through it. That's all I got for you. But it's not just the University of Utah. It's all of the FBS in football and a bunch of other institutions who are big-time college basketball or whatever else that's their flagship athletics program. If they are opting into this, they're having to navigate through this, and that's a lot harder to do than the NIL era previous to this revenue sharing era that are now merging, where it's just like, hey, outside companies and donors, you do it.
It only lasted a year that the responsibility was foisted onto outside donors. There is one part of that interview, again, go listen to it at ESPN 700 Sports, where I hope Mark lied to me.
Okay.
And I'm echoing a sentiment here that I'm seeing on the text line, 9708. I'm 100% on board with you. I asked him about future realignment, and he said, you just got to tune that stuff out. As a fan, sure. Mark Harlan, I hope you lied to me. I want you to be working behind whatever scenes you have to work behind to make sure that Utah is in the best possible position if and more likely when the deck shuffles again, that, the Utes are right there with the Big Ten phone call, that are right there with a whatever it's called mega power conference phone call. And I don't want to, Mark knows that more than I know that. So
yeah, and I'm sure he is.
I think that, when Brett Yormark is probably going to be paying more attention to Utah athletics this week, and you don't want to be like, yeah, man, the Big 12, it's a nice little temporary landing spot, right?
Yeah.
Mark is saying what he has to say publicly. I just hope he was lying to me when he's saying that, you just got to tune it out, because you can't tune it out.
Yeah, and the other thing about it is maybe he's saying to the fans, you got to tune that out.
That's what he did. He was saying, just tune it out.
We're working on it. Trust us. You guys got to tune it out. That might be the reading between the lines, the stuff that you can get by reading between the lines there. Yeah, I'm with you though. It would be a concern if he is tuning it out.
He's not.
And I'm sure he's not.
He's not. I'm just saying. I that's why I hope it's a lie, and it's a forgivable one, and it's an understandable one.
Absolutely.
Because it's kind of like, when you're negotiating your next job, you don't walk into your current job and just be like, just so you guys know,
I'm looking.
I've been looking around and applying in a lot of different places.
I like what I see.
I've had a lot of serious conversations. You can't share some of that stuff. But, the big picture, that is a tough job that Mark Harlan has to do, because your coaches have tough jobs, your compliance and NIL people, and your everyone underneath you has a tough job.
And you're the boss.
And everyone at some point is going to go, hey, how do I handle this tough situation at my tough job? And you're like, well, I have to help all of these 500 people do their tough jobs. So
yeah.
Big thanks to him for joining us this week.
I'll say this, too, and you did a good job of saying this. He did, too. But the main reason why he wanted to come on the show, requested time on the show, was to make sure we have a huge turnout at Big Noon Kickoff, because this is a big exposure opportunity. Certainly, they announced another sellout, so we know that Rice Eccles Stadium is going to be packed. But let's show out. And for the pregame festivities as well, which, by the way, if you look at the Muss's Twitter post, actually starts around 4 a.m. if you really want to get into it.
I don't know why people were laughing at me yesterday when I said 4. If a game's at 10, 4 a.m., they're going to open parking lots and you can show up.
Muss is going to have plenty of festivities leading up to Fox's Big Noon Kickoff hours before. So be sure to show out, and with your signs and everything else, and make Salt Lake City and University of Utah look good on national television, huh?
Riley Green tickets to give away. Riley Green coming to the Utah First Credit Union July 23rd. I'll give those away next with a topical trivia question. ESPN 700, 92 on FM. We have Riley Green tickets to give away, a pair of them for July 23rd at Utah First Credit Union. 877-353-0700. If you could tell me to this point, 3 games in, how many touchdown passes has Devin Dampier thrown? Just tell me. 877-353-0700, a pair of Riley Green tickets. Spence Checketts in the Drive. We're up next. He's here in studio with us. Hi, Spence.
I know the answer.
You do?
Yeah, but
Don't.
I'm not going to. I don't want to do. I'm not going to spoil it. I mean, we're already counting down towards Riley Green, July 23rd. So I'm not here to.
July 23rd, 2026.
As the kids would say,
date that will live in infamy.
Yuck anyone's yum. I'm not here to do that.
Kids say that?
Yes, they say that.
I don't even know what that sounds weird. I
Well,
don't like it.
You're kind of in this. I mean, your kids don't say that. You're too young. They're too young. And you're not young enough to, like, it's in the middle of your children and you. Like, no one in your household is saying, yuck, you're yum.
All right. I'm glad.
Have you heard of the, yeah, you should be. Have you heard of the podcaster Mel Robbins?
No.
Don't look it up.
All right.
That's
it? That's all the context? Just don't look it up?
I should probably save my Mel Robbins take for off air, but I think she's the one that doctored the don't yuck anyone's yum. Hi, Sean. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good.
Spence, who is the GOAT candidate with the most problematic public persona? Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, or Barry Bonds?
Huh. I would say if everything was known about all of them, it would be Michael Jordan.
Okay.
And I don't know everything about Tom Brady. I mean, Tom Brady is so squeaky clean. There are bodies buried somewhere. I know right now.
Not at all, though. That's the thing.
But I know right now it's like, hey, coaches. Okay. Barry Bonds probably has the most front-facing issues, I would say. LeBron, actually, even though there's so many people who don't like him for a myriad of different reasons, some of them are dumb, some of them are fair. It's pretty remarkable how squeaky clean he's remained for being in the public eye since the age of like 15.
Yeah, it is remarkable. I put a poll question out to that end because Tom Brady is once again embroiled in a mild controversy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And receiving the fewest votes for problematic public persona, Tom Brady. Michael Jordan, 7.3%.
Okay.
LeBron James, 23.6% of the respondents say LeBron is the most problematic. And Barry Bonds is running away with it at 65%.
That's not too surprising. What do you think people believe is problematic about LeBron?
We debated this, and I'm relatively dismissive of the LeBron James as is problematic thing. His whole holier than thou about certain issues while also being deeply in bed financially with Chinese interests is problematic.
Sure. And
it's also far from unique.
And it's hypocritical of the NBA and has been for a number of years, right?
Yeah.
That's why I didn't know we were doing this today. When Daryl Morey sent out his tweet, Free Hong Kong or whatever, the reaction, even for somebody that's been around the league his whole life, made me very curious. And I kicked the tires with a lot of people like, why are people so afraid in the NBA to speak out about China when on the other side of it, they just want to speak out about every other social issue?
Yeah.
Like it's a bad look for the league.
And
it's very hypocritical. And I was stunned at how many people were terrified to even text me about it. I had one exec, and I'll tell you who it is off air, say, I will call you after your show.
Wow.
And he did. And he walked me through the process of when Yao Ming was a prospect for teams to look at coming out of China, and how those meetings contained members of, the CCP, powerful people worldwide, basically with a list of mandates. Like, if you draft him, here's what this means. And these are non-negotiables, right? And the Rockets are the team that decided to take the risk. There were plenty of teams that had a chance to either move up, draft Yao, that after meeting with Yao and his reps, they're like, nope, we're not doing this at all.
We don't want to play that game.
No, and look, one of the reasons why the NBA turned such a blind eye to what I perceive to be their issues domestically is they have revenue streams internationally that only soccer rivals. Like soccer's one, NBA's two from a global scale because
Sure.
of the interest in pro basketball in Europe and in China. And the Chinese knew that Yao was their opportunity to break in to the American market. So they wanted to make sure his image was cultivated in a very specific way to the point, and you can go back and look at this, Yao wouldn't do interviews over the first couple of years of his tenure in the NBA. And I remember chuckling about this because the spin was he doesn't speak English. And then like year 3, 4, he started giving interviews in perfect English.
Sure.
Our guy spoke English from day one. But there was like this cloak around Yao and this cloak around the relationship between China, the CCP, and the NBA. There's just so much revenue at stake that when it comes to anybody in the NBA, when they're asked about China, they bite their lips so quickly. And for a league that does like to present itself as front-facing social justice folk, I was very outspoken about how hypocritical I found that. But as far as personal life goes, there's not a lot there with LeBron. I understand the social stuff, but
you could say you don't like, and someone texted in angrily about us not mentioning this. So, and it's a good point. You can be bothered by the fact that LeBron kind of strong-armed his team into giving Bronny better treatment than every other prospect. You're a helicopter parent. All right, well, that's not as problematic as what we've seen from Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, or Barry Bonds. So, look, I'm not the biggest LeBron apologist. I'm not the biggest LeBron fan. He's cringy to me. But when we're talking about problematic public personas, I don't understand 23% of these people saying he's the most problematic of all of them. You probably disagree with his politics, and that's fine. It doesn't make him problematic to me.
Let me offer this, though, with the Bronny stuff. Austin Ainge runs the Jazz. Mike Dunleavy runs the Warriors. Bro, I could give you a list. And again, the official stance of the Drive is we are
You're not pro-nepotism.
We are anti-nepotism on the Drive. I want to make that very, very clear.
Staunchly.
But in the world of NBA ownership, front office, and coaching staffs, dude, I could sit here and give you a list of 200 names of guys that own teams now that only inherited the team, guys that run teams now because dad gave them a job. We have one here in Salt Lake. The coaching bench, so when one player strong arms a team to give his kid a chance to play, it's a little hypocritical for people to yell about that when the league is littered. And part of me wishes I took a different route. Maybe I would be running a team now instead of doing AM radio.
Yeah.
But Bronny's not a very good player, but he was also the 55th pick. And if you go over the list of picks 50 through 55 in NBA history, there's a chance at the end of his career he exists in that space, and that's fine. But I fundamentally push back on people yelling about LeBron getting Bronny a chance in a league that is built by nepotism. It just is.
Yeah, it's.
Wow.
By the way,
didn't know we were doing that today.
You won't find many industries that are not deeply affected.
100%. It's the front-facing public businesses that get the most pushback. Go look at any construction company, insurance company, that's all over. I'm sorry to say this, it's how the world works. And if you have a chance to get your kid a job, you're going to do it. If you're a parent, you just want to make sure your kid is comfortable in the world. My son is working for my brother right now. He's killing it, and I love it. I have no problem with it.
Stay tuned for the Drive with Spence Checketts. He's got.
Right. Your daughters will be hosting the show in 7 or 8 years.
That would be my 13-year-old daughter at that time would be hosting the show. Would do a better job than me already, so why not?
All of us.
Stay tuned for the Drive. He's got 4 hours today on Utah's #1 sports talk. ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.